Chapter 1084. In the Holy Poison Cult. When they first met in the Mirror Lake Forest, Yuhaoran thought that Li Ziyuan was a shrewd person who knew his limits. But now, it seemed that his intelligence was deteriorating. Fortunately, Zhong Wenda and the 5 white-haired elders rushed over quickly, allowing him to get rid of Li Ziyuan's entanglement. 5 elders, this young man with an extraordinary appearance, who is like a dragon among men, is Yuhaoran, whose name has shaken the entire profound sky continent. Zhong Wenda introduced as he pointed at Yuhaoran, who had a gentle smile on his face. Perhaps it was because Yuhaoran was too young, or perhaps it was because Zhong Wenda's way of discussing with him was wrong. Facing Zhong Wenda's enthusiastic introduction, the 5 elders' reaction was very cold. Grandmaster Yu, these 5 respected elders are the 5 elders of our Holy Poison Cult. They are also the cornerstone of our Holy Poison Cult's foothold in the Mirror Lake Forest. Facing the 5 elders who treated Yuhaoran coldly, Zhong Wenda smiled awkwardly before pointing at the 5 elders and introducing them. This is Great Elder Du Qi, 2nd Elder Du Han, 3rd Elder Du Yuan, 4th Elder Du Ji, and 5th Elder Du Duan. Junior Yuhaoran greets the 5 elders. Ignoring the 5 elders' cold attitude, Yuhaoran immediately greeted them respectfully after Zhong Wenda's introduction. As the Emperor's son-in-law of the great Emperor Qin Kingdom, with his shocking talent in the Sword Dao and his achievements in the Alchemy Dao and Array Dao, they respectfully greeted him as a junior. No matter how much they despised Yuhaoran in their hearts, the 5 elders were too embarrassed to continue their cold attitude. Therefore, as the 2nd elder who usually assisted Zhong Wenda in handling the sex affairs, Du Han returned the greeting on behalf of the 5 elders and resumed his cold expression. Grandmaster Yu, I just heard from the sect leader that you are not only proficient in the Poison Dao, but also have the confidence to groom a Poison Dao Grandmaster within 3 years and a Poison Dao Grandmaster within 10 years. That's right. While nodding to confirm, Yuhaoran glanced at Zhong Wenda with some dissatisfaction. No wonder the 5 elders with good personalities would be so cold to him. The root cause was indeed Zhong Wenda. For example, the words he had just said about nurturing grandmasters and great-grandmasters could only come from his own mouth. Only then would it not seem arrogant and conceited, and would not make people feel disgusted. Fortunately, he understood the personalities of the 5 elders in his previous life and knew how to eliminate the disgust in their hearts. Elder Poison Soul, if you want to break through to the Poison Dao Grandmaster realm, it's not enough to rely on a deep understanding of the Poison Dao. You must have the determination to risk your life and use your body to test the poison to truly understand the power of poison and the origin of poison. Only in this way can you truly comprehend the true essence of the Poison Dao Grandmaster realm. Only then can you successfully break through the Poison Dao Grandmaster realm and become a Poison Dao Supreme Grandmaster in the future. Based on his previous life's experience in the art of poison, Yuhaoran provided a solution to the Grandmaster realm poison that had troubled the 2nd elder for decades. After hearing Yuhaoran's explanation and theory about breaking through to the Poison Dao Grandmaster realm, the 2nd elder, Poison Soul, who was suddenly enlightened, looked at him in shock, not knowing what to say. Elder Poison Soul, as the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. Seeing that the 2nd elder had already comprehended the Poison Dao Grandmaster realm, Yuhaoran smiled knowingly. Then, he looked at the 3rd elder Poison Soul and continued to solve the dilemma he was facing in order to prove his achievements in the art of poison. If you want to use the flame poison with corrosive high temperature to refine an elixir that is comparable to the self-explosion of the black saliva ball, you must use ice poison with low temperature to compress and seal the uncontrollable high temperature of the flame poison. Only by achieving a balance of cold and heat, and to the extent of the fusion of flame and ice, can you successfully refine an elixir that can self-explode upon impact. The research on the body-splitting flame elixir had been going on for nearly 10 years. It was not a secret in the Holy Poison sect and the affiliated sections. Therefore, Elder Poison Soul was not surprised that Yu Haoran was able to refine the body-splitting flame elixir. What really surprised him, or rather deeply touched him, was the theory and explanation of alchemy. Ziyuan, you can leave first. The reactions of the second elder and the third elder were enough to prove Yu Haoran's amazing achievements in the art of poison. After communicating with Zhong Wenda and the four elders through eye contact, the first elder Poison Soul ordered Li Ziyuan. Yes, first elder. No matter how much his intelligence deteriorated, he could still see the seriousness of the matter. Hearing the first elder's order, Li Ziyuan immediately left the square and went straight to the courtyard where Haim Man lived. Looking at the direction Li Ziyuan left, the second elder Poison Soul could not help but sigh softly. Master Yu, the trouble that we have encountered is related to the life and death of the holy poison cult. Therefore, we hope that you can make an oath that you will not reveal anything that you have seen or know today. After Li Ziyuan left, the first elder requested with a solemn expression. If it was anyone else who made such an unreasonable request, Yu Haoran would definitely turn hostile and leave. However, facing the first elder, facing the holy poison sect that had saved his life in his previous life, he immediately swore on the heavenly Tao. This was not an ordinary oath, but an oath on the heavenly Tao. Yu Haoran's actions just now immediately won the trust and goodwill of the five elders. Grandmaster Yu, please follow us. After the first elder reminded him, he, the four elders, and Zhong Wenda directly soared into the sky and flew into the depths of the holy poison sect. Yu Haoran did not hesitate and immediately flew into the sky, following closely behind them to the forbidden area of the holy poison sect. This is the direct bloodline descendant of the ancient divine beast, the Hymen divine dragon. Just after landing on a mountain peak that was designated as a forbidden area by the holy poison sect, Yu Haoran was immediately stunned by the pure black divine dragon that was more than a few hundred meters long entrenched between the rocks. That's right. The first elder's eyes revealed a trace of pride and joy as he nodded and confirmed. This is the Hymen divine dragon that contains the purest ancestral bloodline. The Hymen divine dragon was a very unique existence among the dragon race. It was very strong and had a very docile personality. However, it was not liked by the dragon race because of the highly toxic poison it possessed. The highly toxic poison contained in the Hymen divine dragon's body was ranked second on the Profound Sky Continent's 100 poison ranking, surpassing the life-seizing grass. After the shock, Yu Haoran gradually discovered the abnormality of the Hymen divine dragon, as if its life force was slowly draining away. However, the Hymen divine dragon's powerful defense made it impossible for his spiritual sense to enter its body smoothly, so he was unable to find the real reason for the loss of life force. Helpless, he could only suggest to the first elder to approach the Hymen divine dragon. Grandmaster Yu, please wait a moment. Chapter 1085. In the Holy Poison Sect. It didn't take long to wait. As the dragon's body began to slide between the cracks of the rocks, the black dragon, head buried in the body, slowly lifted up. The head was like a camel, the horns were like a deer, the eyes were like a rabbit, the ears were like a cow, the neck was like a snake, the belly was like a fish, and the scales were like a carp. Looking at the black dragon head slowly lifting up, Yu Haoran's mood, which had just calmed down, immediately became extremely agitated again. The huge dragon eyes stared at Yu Haoran for a while. Then the black man dragon god nodded and then crawled in the direction of Yu Haoran. Seeing the slightly nervous Yu Haoran, the great elder gently reminded him, Master Yu, the black man dragon god has a gentle temperament. As long as you don't have any evil intentions, it will definitely not hurt you. Thank you for the reminder, great elder. This junior understands. Nodding, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and then strode toward the black man dragon god. Judging purely from the aura, the black man dragon god in front of him was just a first tribulation quasi-venerable exotic beast that had just broken through the soul tribulation. Logically speaking, it definitely shouldn't give him any pressure. After all, The number of quasi-venerable exotic beasts that had died in his hands was close to 20. However, the bloodline contained the purest ancient divine dragon aura, which made him feel heavy pressure. Looking at the black Maman dragon god in front of him, which had lost its life force for no reason, but its prestige didn't decrease at all. Thinking about the dragon salamander that had signed a beast pet contract with him and could become an ancestral dragon in the future, Howard couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. If it wasn't for the fact that the Thaling had made him sign the beast pet contract with the dragon salamander, based on the fact that it had been in a state of hibernation and had never responded to him, he would have terminated the beast pet contract with the dragon salamander long ago. Young human, what do you want to do? Seeing Howard walking in front of it, the black Maman dragon god withdrew its divine dragon aura and asked Howard. Putting away the disappointment that had just emerged in his heart, Howard took out the wooden box that contained the life-reaping grass and opened it directly in front of the black Maman dragon. The black Maman divine dragon's sudden rise of the dragon's head, its body that slid back quickly, and the divine dragon's aura that erupted once again were enough to prove the black Maman divine dragon's fear of the life-reaping grass. Grandmaster, what have you done? Heyman Shenlong's reaction of retreating in fear immediately aroused the displeasure of Grand Elder and the others. Howard turned the wooden box sideways and gestured to the Great Elder and the others. Then, regardless of whether they could recognize the life-reaping grass or not, he raised his head and said to the Hyman Dragon God, Senior Dragon God, as the poison in your body is too strong, I dare not rashly use my divine telekinesis to check your body. Holding up the wooden box in his hand, Howard explained the use of the life-reaping grass. Therefore, I have to use the life-seizing grass to suppress the Herman poison in your body, because this is the only way for this junior to find out the true reason for your life force loss. Life-taking grass. When Howard was explaining the use of the spirit grass in the wooden box and mentioned the origin of the spirit grass, Third Elder Du Yuan, who was proficient in refining poison pills, vaguely felt a sense of familiarity when he mentioned the origin of the spirit grass. When he heard that the life-reaping grass's poison could suppress the Herman poison, he immediately recalled the origin of the life-reaping grass and asked in a trembling voice, Grandmaster, is the spirit grass in your hand the life-reaping grass that is ranked second on the 100 poison ranking of the Tianxin continent? When Third Elder mentioned the life-reaping grasses ranking on the 100 poison ranking of the 100 poison ranking, Grand Elder and the others could not help but change their expressions. After turning around and nodding to confirm, Howard turned back and looked at the Hyman Dragon God, waiting for its reply. Sensing that Howard did not have any ill intentions, the Hyman Dragon God carefully moved its dragon body. Then its head crawled back to him and nodded in agreement. Sure, Grandmaster, although the Herman poison in the Hyman Dragon God's body is slightly stronger than the life-reaping grass, what if the two poisons have an uncontrollable change? Wouldn't it be harmful to the Hyman Dragon God? Third Elder immediately objected. Don't worry, Elder Poison Source. I'm only using the life-reaping grass's aura to control the Herman poison in the Dragon God's body. I won't let the two poisons have any substantial interaction. Without turning back to comfort Third Elder, Howard directly opened the wooden box and placed it under the Hyman Dragon God's mouth. Then, he took out a level 10 Morning Glory from his storage ring. Using the Morning Glory's ability to attract aura, he could control the life-reaping grass's suppression of the Herman poison and prevent the Herman poison from damaging his spiritual sense. Then, he immediately mobilized his spiritual sense and carefully entered the Hyman Dragon God's body through the dragon's open mouth. 3 minutes later, Howard withdrew his spiritual sense and frowned. His eyes were full of doubts. Seeing Howard withdraw his spiritual sense and close the wooden box, First Elder asked anxiously, Grandmaster, how is it? Howard gestured to First Elder not to speak for the time being. He bent his knees and sat down cross-legged. Then, he carefully recalled the situation in the Hyman Dragon God's body. Howard had a thorough understanding of the power of law of life and death. Basically, he could track the direction and cause of the loss of vitality. However, the vitality in the Hyman dragon god's body was disappearing out of thin air. It was as if it was constantly being transported away in an instant. He had never seen or heard of such a situation before. For a moment, he was a little helpless. Senior dragon god, when did you realize that your vitality was disappearing? Since he could not find the cause of the loss of vitality from the Hyman dragon god's body, he could only look for the cause from the outside. Therefore, Yuhauran looked up at the Hyman dragon god and asked, 11 months and 3 days ago. I remember it very clearly. Hyman dragon god immediately replied, First Elder, 11 months ago, did anything strange happen in the holy poison cult? After getting the answer from the Hyman dragon god, Yuhauran turned his head and asked First Elder. After pondering for a moment, the First Elder replied, Everything is normal. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. Then, did any strange people come to the holy poison cult? Yuhauran did not give up and continued to ask. No. Sect leader Zhong Winda replied. Then what's going on? Since nothing strange happened and no strange people came, then why would the vitality of the Hyman dragon god disappear? Yuhauran asked himself more doubtfully. Grandmaster Yu, 11 months ago, this elder accepted a disciple with the same name as the dragon god. After thinking for a while, Second Elder Poison's soul suddenly said, Could the disciple, Second Elder, be referring to be Junior Sister Hyman, who has a good relationship with Junior Brotherly? Yuhauran asked Elder Poison Soul for confirmation while grasping a thought that just flashed through his mind. That's right. Third Elder Poison Soul nodded and confirmed. Chapter 1086. In the Holy Poison Sect. Senior Dragon God, can I borrow your aura for a moment? With Poison Soul's confirmation, Yuhauran grasped the idea that flashed through his mind and immediately asked the Black Man Divine Dragon. Sure. Nodding, the Black Man Divine Dragon peeled off a dragon scale from its tail and handed it to Yuhauran. After receiving the dragon scale, Yuhauran closed his eyes and pinched the dragon scale with his right hand while his left hand moved back and forth on the dragon scale. What is Master Yu doing? Seeing Yuhauran's strange actions, the Great Elder asked in confusion. Great Elder, I'm afraid Master Yu is using the innate divination technique to calculate the true reason for the Divine Dragon's loss of life force. Zhong Winda, who had heard Yuhauran say that he was proficient in spell cultivation, explained. SSSS. Hearing Zhong Winda's explanation, the Great Elder and the others couldn't help but gasp. While ensuring one's own martial Dao cultivation, cultivating an auxiliary cultivation Dao was the most common way of cultivation in the Tianxin continent. If one could cultivate 2 auxiliary cultivation Dao and achieve extraordinary results in both, they would have unparalleled talent. If one could cultivate 3 auxiliary cultivation Dao, they would also achieve extraordinary results, and their talent would reach the demon level. If one could cultivate 4 auxiliary cultivation Dao and still achieve extraordinary results, their talent would surpass the demon level and reach the legendary divine level. And Yuhauran, alchemy Dao, array Dao, sword Dao, poison Dao, and spell Dao. Not only did he cultivate 5 auxiliary cultivation Dao, but he also achieved amazing results in all of them. This meant that his talent had probably reached the legendary divine level and was at the top of the divine level. More importantly, the 5 auxiliary cultivation Dao that Yuhauran cultivated were different from the other demon-level geniuses. Most demon-level geniuses cultivated auxiliary cultivation Dao that could increase their strength, such as sword Dao, saber Dao, fist Dao, and so on. They were auxiliary cultivation Dao that would not delay or affect martial Dao cultivation. Of the 5 auxiliary paths that Yuhauran cultivated, 3 of them ranked in the top 5. Pill Dao, Formation Dao, and Formula Dao. His achievements and talent far surpassed those geniuses who had reached the god level. Yuhauran combined the aura of the Heyman Divine Dragon scales, then used the innate divination skill. The Heyman Divine Dragon in Yuhauran's eyes gradually turned illusory. along with the illusory dragon body. A clear line of life and a clear line of providence appeared. One was connected to the black man divine dragon, while the other was connected to a certain mountain in the holy poison sect. Mobilizing his telepathic thoughts, Yu Haoran saw a girl who had strong disgust in her eyes, but had to put up with Li Ziyuan's pestering. Hey man! Yu Haoran couldn't help but sigh as he watched Hey Man's enormous life force slowly enter Hey Man's body. Honorable Powerhouse, have you found out why my life force is draining? As Yu Haoran performed the innate divination skill, the Yu Haoran in the eyes of Hey Man Divine Dragon changed completely. He became more elusive, more mysterious, and more unpredictable. This kind of complicated change made Herman uncontrollably feel a trace of fear, and it also made him subconsciously respect the way he addressed him. Nodding, Yu Haoran turned to greet the Great Elder and the others. Grandmaster Yu, what happened to the Hey Man Divine Dragon? The Great Elder and the others immediately rushed to Yu Haoran's side and asked nervously. Sect Leader Zhong, Elders, I have found out why Senior Hey Man Divine Dragon's life force is draining away. Yu Haoran put away his emotional expression and said solemnly, Grandmaster Yu, please tell us. Subconsciously clenching his fists, the Great Elder said in a trembling voice. Yu Haoran raised his head to look at the equally nervous Hey Man, then turned his head to look at the mountain peak where Hey Man was. He took a deep breath, then slowly said 4 words. Bloodline symbiosis. Hearing Yu Haoran say the words bloodline symbiosis, the Great Elder and the others were puzzled. Hey Man Divine Dragon, on the other hand, trembled. Its eyes were filled with excitement. Honorable Powerhouse, could it be that there are relatives in this world who are related to me by blood? That's right. Yu Haoran instructed the second elder as he nodded in confirmation. Elder Poison Soul, please bring Hey Man here. After hearing Yu Haoran's order, Poison Soul first asked for the Great Elder's opinion. Because the Black Man Divine Dragon with a pure Divine Dragon bloodline was the hope of the Holy Poison cult's rise in the future, they couldn't tolerate any mishaps. Thus, in the entire Holy Poison cult, other than the cult master and the 5 elders, only Li Ziyuan, who had a natural affinity with mutated beasts, knew about it. Hey Man, who had been his disciple for less than a year, was not qualified to know the secret of Hey Man Divine Dragon. Listen to Grandmaster Yu. After communicating with Zhong Wenda through eye contact, the Great Elder finally gritted his teeth and ordered. All right. Nodding, the second elder and Poison Soul left the forbidden area and went to fetch Hey Man. After the second elder left, Yu Haoran turned to Hey Man Divine Dragon and reminded him, Senior Hey Man Divine Dragon, bloodline symbiosis is an opportunity for you, but I'm afraid it is also a disaster. I hope you are mentally prepared. Honorable Powerhouse, Hey Man does not understand. Shaking his head, Hey Man Divine Dragon indicated that he did not understand the meaning of Yu Haoran's words. You will understand soon. Sensing the second elder's rapid arrival, Yu Haoran reminded him with a complicated expression. Just as the second elder brought Hey Man to the forbidden area, before he could speak, Hey Man, who was standing beside him, was immediately enveloped by a black gas that emerged from his body. Elder Poison Soul, leave your disciple quickly. That black gas is the Hey Man Deadly Poison, ranked 2nd on the 100 poison ranking. After seeing the black gas emerging from Hey Man's body, Yu Haoran immediately reminded the second elder, standing beside him. Grandmaster Yu, what is going on? Why does Hey Man Divine Dragon have the Hey Man Deadly Poison in his body? The second elder, Poison Soul, appeared in front of Yu Haoran and asked urgently. Sigh. With a long sigh, Yu Haoran stopped his divination and stood up. He looked at Hey Man, who was completely enveloped by the black gas, and then at Hey Man Divine Dragon, whose life force was rapidly fading and whose grade was rapidly dropping. He sighed and explained. Elder Poison Soul, your disciple Hey Man is actually the sister of the Hey Man Divine Dragon from the same mother. The only difference is that Hey Man inherited his father's bloodline, which is the bloodline inheritance of a human powerhouse. Hey Man Divine Dragon, on the other hand, inherited his mother's bloodline. Impossible. Chapter 1087. In the Holy Poison Cult. Master you, when I took Monere as my disciple, I personally tested her bone structure and bloodline. I can confirm with 100% certainty that she has just turned 20 this year. At this point, second Elder Poison Soul looked at the completely stunned Hey Man Divine Dragon and spoke with the same certainty. When the Holy Poison Cult obtained the dragon egg of the Hey Man Divine Dragon, it was 700 years ago. After 3 generations of cult leaders and elders carefully incubated it, it successfully hatched 200 years ago. The difference in time between their births was more than a few hundred years. How could the two of them be related by blood? The conversation between second Elder Poison Soul and Yu Haoran attracted the attention of the first elder and the others. They were also puzzled and immediately gathered around second Elder Poison Soul and looked at Yu Haoran. Looking at Hey Man, who was completely enveloped by the black gas and whose aura was constantly growing stronger, Yu Haoran closed his eyes and explained after sorting out the relationship between the two of them. No matter if it's a human or a strange beast, the blood of both their parents flows in their bodies. The only difference is which bloodline has the advantage. No matter if it's a human pregnancy for 10 months or a divine dragon pregnancy for 100 years, as long as they give birth, they will leave their mother's body. Yu Haoran said, with a pitiful expression as he pointed at Hey Man, who had successfully broken through to the martial emperor realm. As Hey Man was born with her brother, although her father's bloodline had the advantage and allowed her to be born successfully, the influence of her mother's divine dragon bloodline caused her blood to be insufficient and her bone structure to be incomplete. According to some of the information I've gathered and combined with the bloodline relationship between Hey Man and the Hey Man Divine Dragon, I'm guessing that after Hey Man was born, her parents must have used a supreme secret technique to seal her. Then, with sufficient spiritual energy and the nourishment of a long period of time, they gradually replenished her blood and perfected her bone structure. Hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, or more accurately speaking, his speculation, the second elder and the others looked at each other and then began to ponder whether his speculation was reasonable. Grandmaster Yu, according to your speculation, if Hey Man and Hey Man Dragon God are related by blood, they should be the closest people in the world. Then why would she absorb her brother's life force? Zhong Wenda, who was the first to discover Yu Haoran's speculation, asked. Taking a deep breath, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at the Black Maman Divine Dragon, who had recovered from its shock and was gradually becoming more and more agitated. The Black Maman Divine Dragon didn't seem to mind the loss of its life force and its grade dropping. Cult leader Zhong, people often say that a daughter is a father's lover in his previous life, and a father's love for his daughter is far greater than for his son. According to the divination technique I just used to calculate the relationship between Hey Man and Hey Man, I found that not only are they closely related by blood, but they also have a symbiotic bloodline contract. This must be the father's way of protecting his daughter. Speaking of this, Yu Haoran's face showed a trace of loneliness. His father's strength was too low, and he couldn't predict what would happen in the future. He didn't protect his sister in advance. Otherwise, she wouldn't have suffered such a tragic fate in her previous life. Fortunately, everything could start over, and he could be considered to have changed his sister's tragic fate. This is too bizarre. After hearing Yu Haoran's speculation about what Hey Man's father had done, Zhong Wenda shook his head in disbelief. Cult leader, 5 elders, this respected expert speculation is not wrong. Just when Zhong Wenda and the others found it difficult to accept Yu Haoran's speculation, Hey Man Dragon God, who was barely suppressing the excitement in his heart, took the initiative to confirm for him. Because at the moment my sister appeared, due to the pull of our bloodlines, a memory that was sealed in my sea of consciousness resurfaced. It let me know that we are siblings from the same mother, and I also know why she only appeared in front of me now. At the same time, I also know that in order to protect my sister's growth, my father had taken the initiative to sign a symbiotic bloodline contract for us. With Hey Man Dragon God confirmation, Zhongwenda and the others believed in Yu Haoran's speculation and began to consider how they should treat Heyman next. Even though Heyman was the second elder's disciple, Poison Soul, she had joined the Holy Poison sect as a rogue cultivator and had not received the sect's true trust and attention. Until now, she was only an ordinary elite disciple. Now that she was related to the Holy Poison sect's divine guardian beast by blood, her status as an ordinary elite disciple was no longer suitable. At the very least, she should be a successor disciple. However, among the crowd, who could truly accept Heyman as a successor disciple? Who could teach her the way of poison according to her special constitution? Furthermore, ever since she had been enveloped by the black gas, Heyman's rate of cultivation had not decreased. She had now broken through to the rank of a 5th-level martial emperor. Furthermore, based on her current rate of increase, it was possible for her to break through to the rank of a martial saint. If Heyman's cultivation were to break through to the rank of a martial saint, her cultivation would be on par with the elders, and they would have no right to teach Heyman. After much thought, Zhongwenda and the 5 elders turned their gazes towards Yu Haoran. They remembered how Yu Haoran had once said that he would be able to train a poison master in 3 years and a great master in 10 years in order to prove his achievements in the way of poison. Then would Heyman, who had successfully awakened the divine dragon's bloodline and possessed the second most potent poison in the profound sky continent's 100 poison ranking, under the nurturing of a poison expert like Yu Haoran, would she become a grand master of poison in an even shorter period of time? Even though Zhongwenda and the 5 elders had not said it explicitly, Yu Haoran could read their thoughts from their eager gazes. Heyman, who had successfully awakened the divine dragon's bloodline and possessed the second most potent poison in the way of poison, far surpassed his only disciple, Yun Xiang, in terms of bloodline and physique. She was also more suited to inherit his legacy in the way of poison from his past life. However, he did not have a good impression of Heyman. He felt that Heyman was too cunning and hypocritical. He did not want to teach her the sacred canon of the way of poison just because of her outstanding talent in the way of poison. He also did not want to personally guide her in her cultivation of the way of poison. Furthermore, he was worried that he would end up training an uncontrollable who could destroy countless lives in the Tianxian continent in the future. Chapter 1088. In the Holy Poison Sect, Zhongwenda and the others were disappointed and unwilling to accept Yu Haoran's rejection. However, they did not try to persuade him. After all, the relationship between master and disciple depended on fate. If Yu Haoran did not take a liking to Heyman, it meant that Heyman's fate was not good enough for him to take a liking to her. If they tried to persuade him too much, not only would they not help Heyman, they would also provoke Yu Haoran's displeasure. Time passed by second. When Heyman's rank was about to drop to the first tribulation quasi-exalted level, Heyman's aura had reached the peak of the 9th grade Martial King level. However, a breakthrough in the Martial Saint realm was not only a breakthrough in Yuan power and soul power, but also one's ability to comprehend the power of laws. As Heyman did not comprehend the power of laws in advance, her lack of strength after reaching the peak of the 9th grade Martial King level caused her breakthrough to come to an abrupt halt. At the same time, the life force in Heyman's body finally stopped flowing away. Heyman slowly opened her eyes and looked at the Heyman divine dragon, whose body was several hundred meters long. Tears of joy flowed from her eyes. "Big brother," Heyman called out softly. "Sister." Heyman divine dragon responded excitedly. At the same time, he moved his huge dragon body and lifted Heyman up before him. Then, the human and dragon began to talk to each other. "Sect leader Zhong, 5 elders, since your sect's trouble has been resolved, I will take my leave now." Seeing Heyman and Heyman divine dragon reunited with each other, Yu Haoran was happy for them. At the same time, he thought of his sister. In less than 5 months, his sister, Yusiki, would return to the southern region and participate in the Hidden Dragon ranking tournament. When that time came, he would be able to see his sister, whom he had not seen for 2 years. In order to allow his sister to cultivate without worry, and also to intimidate the Snow Palace so that they would treat his sister well. Not only did he have to perform well in the Hidden Dragon ranking tournament this time, he also had to display a power and potential that would terrify everyone. That was because only in this way would the Snow Palace truly value his sister. Only in this way would they be able to deter those people and powers that wanted to harm his sister. If they wanted to display their strength and potential that would terrify countless forces, they had to find a way to awaken Thaling in advance so that he could continue to guide and teach them the means to increase their strength and potential. Therefore, Yuhauran wanted to return to Twin Ox Mountain as soon as possible and use the Void Pill condensation technique to break through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm. He was also preparing to refine the pill to awaken the Thaling. Hearing Yuhauran's farewell, Zhong Wenda and the 5 elders couldn't help but be shocked. Originally, they thought that Yuhauran must have some ulterior motive for spending so much effort to help the Holy Poison Cult. Although he didn't know what his real motive was, he definitely wouldn't help him for no reason. But in the end, Grandmaster Yu, why are you helping us? Without knowing the real reason why Yuhauran had helped them, the Great Elder and the others would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Therefore, the highly respected Great Elder directly asked, "Make it up to them." Yuhauran calmly replied, then looked at the Great Elder and the others. Seeing how high-spirited they were like in his previous life, and thinking about Man who possessed a pure bloodline and had officially awakened the divine dragon bloodline, the danger of his sect being exterminated in his previous life had probably been resolved. It was a kind of spiritual relief, and he felt that his mental state cultivation had vaguely touched the realm of Martial Venerable. Make it up to them. After hearing Yuhauran's explanation, the Great Elder and the others looked at each other. None of them remembered that Yuhauran owed the Holy Poison Cult anything, so they could only continue to ask questions. "Grandmaster Yu, I don't understand what you mean just now." "Great Elder, you also know that I'm proficient in innate divination. If I'm lucky enough, I can divine the past and present lives." Seeing that the Great Elder and the others were relentless in their questioning, Yuhauran could only push everything to Formula Dao. "In my previous life, Sect Leader Zhong and the 5 elders saved my life. My help this time can be considered as repayment for saving my life in my previous life." Then, without giving the Great Elder and the others a chance to continue asking questions, he threw the dragon scale in his hand to the Man Divine Dragon and soared into the sky, intending to leave the Holy Poison Cult and return to Twin Bull Mountain. "Esteemed expert, please wait." The act of returning the dragon scale completely interrupted the reminiscing between the Man Divine Dragon and the Man Divine Dragon. It immediately raised its head and urged him to stay. "Senior Divine Dragon, do you have any other orders?" Floating in the air, Yuhauran asked in confusion. "Esteemed expert, I wouldn't dare to call myself senior in front of you." Facing Yuhauran's respectful greeting, Fong Shomon immediately gestured fearfully and introduced himself. "I follow my father's surname, Fong. My name is Shomon, meaning to protect my sister. If esteemed expert thinks highly of me, please call me by my real name. If that's the case, then you don't have to keep calling me esteemed expert. Either call me by my real name or call me Master Yu like Sect Leader Zhong and the others." After nodding in agreement to the Man Divine Dragon's suggestion, Yuhauran asked directly, "Fong Shomon, do you have any other business?" "Master Yu, Shomon hopes that you can take my sister Fong Man as your disciple," Fong Shomon requested respectfully. Yuhauran looked at Fong Shomon with a slight frown, then lowered his head to look at Fong Man, who was staring blankly at him. He shook his head and said, "Fong Shomon, your sister and I aren't fated to be master and disciple, so don't mention this again. Master Yu, I've already heard from my sister about what happened when you first met her. I can understand why you don't want to take her as your disciple, but she was forced to do what she did. It's not her nature." Yuhauran's categorical rejection didn't surprise Fong Shomon. After pointing out the real reason why Yuhauran didn't want to take him as a disciple, he began to excuse and plead for his sister. "In order to maintain my life force that's constantly draining away the sect leader and the 5 elders have used almost 90% of the holy poison sect's resources on me, causing everyone in the sect to fall into a predicament where they can't cultivate normally. And because Fong Man's cultivation is about to break through, she has no choice but to take the risk and use this method to obtain enough cultivation resources for her to break through. Actually, she's not bad at all. Instead, she's very kind. Hearing Fong Shouman's pleading an excuse for Fong Man, as well as the rekindled anticipation in the eyes of the first elder and the others, Yu Haoran knew that if he didn't explain this matter clearly, it would definitely affect their relationship in the future. Moreover, for Fong Man, who also had the same desire to take him as her master, it would be a great blow. Chapter 1089. In the Holy Poison Sect. Since my debut, I've only accepted one disciple. Her name is Yunxiang. She's the daughter of an elder from the Heavenly Earth Chamber of Commerce. Because her mother once encountered, therefore Yu Haoran's standard for accepting disciples is talent and potential. What I really value is character and humanity. After a pause, Yu Haoran bluntly stated his own opinion of Fong Man. Fong Man, whether it was the first time we met in the Mirror Lake Forest, or the way you treated Li Ziyuan with my divine sense. To be honest, your performance disappointed me. Senior, I admit that I'm too tactful and hypocritical, but all of this was because I had no choice. Yu Haoran's bluntness made Fong Man understand the real reason why he was unwilling to accept her as a disciple. Instead, she was relieved. It wasn't that she didn't want to accept him, but because some of her previous actions had dissatisfied him. Therefore, Fong Man also explained sincerely. Senior, before I met my brother, whether I was a rogue cultivator who cultivated alone or an elite disciple who was always guarded against, the reality forced me to only have one thought in my heart, and that was to survive and live well. Conspiracies and tricks are only means to survive. I'm not willing to use these shameful means in my heart. At this point, Fong Man couldn't help but smile bitterly. As for Senior Brother Li, I can't do anything about it, because Senior Brother Li's position in the Holy Poison Sect is too special. It's so special that even the successor disciple of the sect master and the grandson of the 5th elder have to flatter him hypocritically. Why? Yu Haoran asked in confusion. Because Senior Brother Li can calm the violent emotions of strange beasts and win their favor and friendship. Fong Man explained helplessly and somewhat puzzledly. Master Yu, Fong Man is right. Zhizhuan does have this special ability. Just as Fong Man finished her explanation, Zhong Wenda immediately confirmed and added. Therefore, he's a very special existence in our Holy Poison Sect. Even sometimes I have to give in to him. At this point, Zhong Wenda raised his head and looked at the Black Man, Divine Dragon. His expression was both helpless and a little depressed. Because not only can he make Hei Mang Divine Dragon willingly stay in our Holy Poison Sect, but we also need him to enter Mirror Lake Forest to find some special poisons. He closed his eyes and thought about it carefully. In the end, he found a reason why Li Ziyuan was able to calm the exotic beast's violent emotions and win its favor and friendship. However, it was precisely this reason that caused Yu Haoran's heart to be filled with shock. However, whether or not this reason was true, or whether or not his speculation was correct, he still needed to meet Li Ziyuan in person and use special means to check. Sect Leader Zhong, could you ask Junior Marshal Brother Li to come here? Of course. Li Ziyuan was the only one among the disciples who knew the secret of the Hei Man Divine Dragon. Of course, there was no need to hide it from him. I'll go. Thinking that Li Ziyuan was still waiting for Fong Man in the courtyard, Second Elder Poison Soul immediately said. After that, he flew directly to the courtyard to bring Li Ziyuan over. Fong Man, the reason why I'm not willing to accept you as my disciple, other than your previous actions that have disappointed me, is that you are too dangerous. Compared to your brother, Hei Mang Divine Dragon, you are tens of times, or even hundreds of times more dangerous. While Second Elder Poison Soul went to fetch Li Ziyuan, Yu Haoran looked straight into Fong Man's eyes and said, Senior, I don't understand. Fong Man asked in a panic. Fong Man, Let me praise myself a little. In the current profound sky continent, there are very, very few people who can surpass me, Yu Haoran, in terms of poison Dao knowledge. So few that I'm afraid only those legendary poison Dao emperors are left. Yu Haoran placed his hands behind his back and looked towards the south. He spoke in the manner of a grandmaster. Fong Man, you have more than 30% of the divine dragon's bloodline in your body, and you can control the Hei Mang poison, ranked second on the 100 poison ranking. Even without my, Yu Haoran's, guidance, you will be able to surpass everyone in the holy poison sect in terms of cultivation and poison Dao in 5 to 10 years at most. With my, Yu Haoran's, guidance, you will definitely be able to break through to the poison Dao Grandmaster realm within 2 years. Within 5 years, you will have a 70% chance of becoming a poison Dao Grandmaster. At that time, with the power of the Hei Mang poison, no one in this world will be a match for you unless an almighty expert like Emperor Wu personally makes a move. Even I, Yu Haoran, who is proficient in poison Dao, will have to hide as far away as possible. Yu Haoran looked straight into Fong Man's eyes and asked seriously, Fong Man, if our positions were switched, what would you do? In the face of Yu Haoran's serious question, Fong Man couldn't help but take a few steps back and fall into deep thought. The Grand Elder and the others, as well as the Hei Mang Dragon, were also stunned by his question and began to consider the pros and cons of this situation. Junior sister, why have you appeared here? Just as everyone was deep in thought, a voice filled with surprise and doubt immediately roused them from their stupor. Perhaps because Yu Haoran had questioned her character, Fong Man didn't respond to Li Ziyuan's warm greeting like before. Instead, she retreated to the Hei Mang Dragon's side and continued to ponder Yu Haoran's serious question. Junior brother Li, Yu Haoran immediately called out. He didn't want Li Ziyuan to disturb Fong Man's contemplation, and he also wanted to confirm whether Li Ziyuan was as he had guessed. Senior, Li Ziyuan instinctively called out when he saw Yu Haoran. However, when he suddenly remembered that the young man in front of him was younger than him, he immediately chose to shut up. Yu Haoran didn't care about this at all and walked to his side. Then, he reached out and pressed him down without allowing any objection. Senior, what are you trying to do? Li Ziyuan, who had his shoulder pressed down by Yu Haoran's left hand, immediately forgot about his age disadvantage and asked in a panic when he thought about how Yu Haoran could break his natal sword with his strong defense. Ziyuan, don't move. Master Yu has no ill intentions. Knowing that Yu Haoran wanted to check the reason why Li Ziyuan could calm the beast's violent emotions, the second elder, Poison Soul, who usually disciplined Li Ziyuan on behalf of the Golden Dragon Elder, ordered. After hearing the second elder's order, Li Ziyuan slowly calmed down. After checking Li Ziyuan from head to toe with his divine sense, he was almost able to confirm his conjecture. However, his guess was too shocking. In order to avoid any mistakes, he directly grabbed Li Ziyuan's palm and cut it, forcing out a few drops of blood. Chapter 1090. In a Holy Poison Cult. Looking at the providence that was more than 10 times thicker than the providence that he had formed under the protection of the heavenly Tao, Yu Haoran could not help but feel envious and jealous at the same time when his guess was completely confirmed. Master Yu, what's going on with martial nephew Ziyuan? Seeing Yu Haoran open his eyes in shock, second elder Poison Soul immediately asked, indicating for second elder and Poison Soul not to speak for the time being. Yu Haoran soared into the air. When he was 1,000 meters above the Holy Poison Cult, he stopped and used the aura viewing technique recorded in Fushi's 8 trigrams to observe the Holy Poison Cult's providence. He found that the Holy Poison Cult's providence was slowly growing stronger. It seemed that Hei Man Divine Dragon and his sister's reunion, as well as the fact that he was about to reveal Li Ziyuan's special physique, had caused the Holy Poison Cult to undergo a true transformation. Yu Haoran was sincerely happy for the Holy Poison Cult's providence. He had finally released the last trace of guilt he felt towards the Holy Poison Cult. However, the experience in the Mirror Lake Forest and the Holy Poison Cult had raised a question in his heart. A question that involved his past life and present life. And this question probably needed Thaling to explain for him. Yu Haoran took a deep breath and suppressed the doubts that had just emerged in his heart. He returned to Li Ziyuan and looked at him with envy and jealousy. He stared at him for nearly 3 minutes until Li Ziyuan felt goosebumps. Only then did he turn around and explain to Great Elder and the rest. Junior brother, Li is not an ordinary person. He has the Crimson God physique, which is ranked 4th among the thousands of special physiques in the profound sky continent. It is also known as the Crimson God physique that has no bottlenecks. Crimson God physique. The first elder and the others glanced at each other, confusion flashing in their eyes. This was because they did not know much about the special physiques in the profound sky continent, not to mention the Crimson God physique, which was ranked 4th among the thousands of special physiques. Master Yu, could it be that you have the Crimson God physique, which is known as the heart of a child and is protected by thousands of gods? Fang Shouman asked in shock. Due to his sister's bloodline, the Black Man Divine Dragon had also obtained some memories from his bloodline when he had successfully unsealed part of his father's seal. Among them, there were records of special constitutions. As for the Crimson Divinity physique, known as the Pure Heart, it was also known as the Divine Physique. It was a special physique that allowed one to reach the true divinity realm. That's right. While nodding to confirm, Yu Haoran turned to look at Fang Shouman and said, if your bloodline inheritance has a heaven-class cultivation method, or a cultivation method above the heaven class, you can pass it to Li Ziyuan. Then, he turned to the first elder and the others and instructed them. As for junior brother Li's cultivation, you only need to do one thing, and that is to increase his cultivation resources without limit and protect his safety. You don't need to interfere with anything else. Master Yu, how high will Martial Nephew Ziyuan's future achievements be? Not only did he ask the Black Man Divine Dragon for a cultivation method above the heaven class, but he also asked the sect to provide unlimited cultivation resources. Yu Haoran's instructions just now made the first elder want to know how high Li Ziyuan, whom he valued so much, would be in the future. If Fang Shouman can increase his cultivation method above the heaven class, as long as junior brother Li doesn't have any accidents, the future Supreme Emperor position will not be a problem at all. There is even a great hope that he can see through the mystery of life and death and become an immortal martial god. Yu Haoran said with envy. There were no restrictions on the realm bottleneck, and there was no need to spend time and effort to comprehend the power of law. He only needed to constantly absorb spiritual energy to increase his cultivation. As for the heaven-defying ability of the Crimson God physique, everyone would be envious and jealous. Sizzle. Hearing Yu Haoran's evaluation of Li Ziyuan's future achievements, the first elder and the others could not help but gasp. At the same time, because of the extreme shock, they could not help but take a few steps back. Looking at the ignorant Li Ziyuan, who did not know that his special physique had shocked the sect's upper echelons, Yu Haoran's envy was replaced by a trace of pity. Although the Crimson God physique with a pure heart had the advantage of never having a bottleneck in the realm, Li Ziyuan's character of trusting others too easily would put him in a dangerous state at any time. According to Thaling, when discussing the advantages and disadvantages of the Crimson God physique with him, he had mentioned that the Crimson God physique had appeared several times since ancient times. However, no warrior with the Crimson God physique had been able to see through the mystery of life and death and become a martial god. The main reason was that they had been harmed by the people they trusted around them. Now, the rules of heaven were about to be perfected. In the future, it would also allow warriors to break through to the martial venerable and Emperor Wu, and even the martial god realm. Yu Haoran did not want to see a genius with a pure heart who had the potential to break through to the martial god realm meet with an accident. At the same time, the friendly relationship between him and the Holy Poison sect made him look forward to Li Ziyuan, who had grown up, being able to help him in the future. He took out a jade pendant from his storage ring and merged a part of his soul and Yuan Qi into it. After making a life-saving jade pendant on the spot, he gave it to Li Ziyuan. Junior apprentice brother Li, This jade pendant contains 30% of Yu Haoran's soul and Yuan Qi. It can withstand a full blow from a peak 7th grade martial saint expert. Consider it a gift for our first meeting. Anticipation was just anticipation, but it was not an extravagant hope. Therefore, not only did Yu Haoran only make a one-time life-saving jade pendant, he also did not merge his consciousness into it. Facing the life-saving jade pendant that Yu Haoran gave to him, Li Ziyuan was very tempted, but he was too embarrassed to reach out to take it. Jichuan, this is a gift from Master Yu. Just accept it. The second elder, Poison Soul, who had barely calmed down, reminded Li Ziyuan as he looked at him with envy. Thank you very much, Yu Shixiao. Happily taking the life-saving jade pendant, Li Ziyuan happily took out a red thread and hung the life-saving jade pendant in his underwear. Regarding this, Yu Haoran nodded with gratification. Then, he turned his head to look at Fong Man and asked, Have you thought about it? Senior, if we exchange positions, I would agree to take in a disciple. However, I would take precautions in advance. I would barely be able to devour the navel. Raising her head to look at Yu Haoran, Fong Man replied calmly. Slightly shocked, Yu Haoran looked at Fong Man in surprise. His determination to refuse to take in a disciple immediately loosened a little. Facing Yunxiang, who could use the Go Soul-devouring poison to cultivate, he finally decided to take her as a disciple. It was not only because she wanted to take him as her master, but also because of the restriction of the heavenly law. However, the relationship between master and disciple always needed the heavenly law to guarantee it. This was definitely not what Yu Haoran wanted. Chapter 1091. In the Holy Poison Cult. Seeing Fong Man's calm expression, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and asked seriously, You won't bear any grudges because of this? No. Shaking her head, Fong Man replied, Are you sure you are doing this willingly? Willingly. I will never regret it. Fong Man, with my guidance on the Tao of Poison, you have a great chance of becoming a poison emperor in the future and becoming one of the top experts in the profound sky continent. Although Fong Man's reply was very firm, Yu Haoran still did not make up his mind to take her as his disciple and continued to question her. What if I become your enemy? If I am in the wrong, I will kill myself in front of Master. Facing Yu Haoran's direct questioning, Fong Man slowly closed her eyes and thought for a while. When she opened her eyes again, she replied with a smile on her face. If you are in the wrong, I will destroy my own cultivation, cut off our relationship as master and disciple, and return everything you have given me. Clenching his fists, his eyes slightly moist, Yu Haoran looked at Fong Man with a faint smile on her face and felt a trace of pity in his heart. Closing his eyes and taking a deep breath, he opened them again and ordered with a serious expression. Kneel. Fong Man did not hesitate and directly knelt on the ground. Then, she respectfully raised her head and looked at Yu Haoran, waiting for his next order. Fong Man, as my disciple, Yu Haoran, there are no binding sect rules. There is only one thing you need to remember. Just like when he took Yunxiang as his disciple in Guangling City, a strong killing intent soared into the sky as Yu Haoran murderously threatened. Once you become my disciple, Yu Haoran, you cannot betray the sect for the rest of your life. Otherwise, even if I chase to the highest heavens and kill my way to hell, I will definitely take your head and extinguish your soul. Fong Man will remember Master's rules and will never betray the sect for the rest of my life. Fong Man solemnly swore. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran instructed, Pay your respects. Bang, bang, bang. After 3 respectful kowtows, Fong Man officially became Yu Haoran's second disciple. After gesturing for Fong Man to get up, Yu Haoran put away his serious expression and turned his head to ask Zhong Wenda, Sect Master Zhong, Can you arrange a quiet place for us? I have a few things to tell Fong Man, of course. Zhong Wenda quickly nodded in agreement. At the same time, he also decided to give Fong Man the Sealed Moon Pavilion, which had the quietest environment in the Holy Poison Cult and had the most abundant spirit Qi, as her future cultivation place. After all, not only was Fong Man Yu Haoran's successor disciple, but she was also Man Divine Dragon's twin sister. Her status was not inferior to his, the Holy Poison sect master. In the sealed moon pavilion, Yu Haoran looked at the beautiful scenery in front of him, the pavilions, terraces, and pavilions, and the courtyard that was full of natural energy. He nodded his head in satisfaction. Then he walked into the pavilion of the sealed moon pavilion and sat on a stone chair. Fong Man, when I accepted your senior sister Yunxiang as my disciple, I made her swear by the rules of heaven that she would never reveal the poison doubt mental cultivation method that I taught her. Gesturing for Fong Man to stand in front of him, Yu Haoran instructed her with a serious expression. The poison Tao mental cultivation method that I'm going to teach you is the same as the one I taught your senior sister, so you can't be an exception. Disciple Fong Man swears by the rules of heaven that the poison Tao mental cultivation method that you're going to teach me will only enter my ears and not my mouth. After hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, Fong Man immediately raised her left hand and swore, "If I break this oath, my soul will fall into hell and never be reincarnated." After hearing Fong Man's oath, Yu Haoran nodded his head in satisfaction. He stretched out his finger and pressed it on her forehead. Then he used his divine thought to condense the poison Tao mental cultivation method into her sea of consciousness. Master, this is a mental cultivation method martial skill that surpasses the heaven rank. Unlike Yunxiang, who had never come into contact with martial arts, she did not understand the value of the poison Tao mental cultivation method. After Fong Man, whose cultivation was already at the peak of the 9th level of the martial monarch realm, obtained the poison holy canon, she was immediately stunned by its quality and the contents recorded in it. Seeing that Fong Man had already realized the importance of the poison Tao mental cultivation method, Yu Haoran nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "This is why I made you swear by the rules of heaven." Disciple thanks benefactor master for his grace. Kneeling on the ground, Fong Man heavily kowtowed. After living as a loose cultivator for several years, she was very clear about the advantages and disadvantages of mental cultivation methods and martial skills, as well as the fundamental impact on a cultivator's realm and strength. Relying on her father's talent and a low-grade earth rank mental cultivation method martial skill, she had used less than 4 years to raise her cultivation to the peak of 9th grade martial king. If she had been able to obtain the poison Tao mental cultivation method that surpassed the heaven rank when she first started cultivating, she would probably have already broken through the martial saint realm, or even reached the peak of 9th grade martial saint realm. With a wave of his sleeve, a gentle force directly lifted Fong Man up. Yu Haoran indicated with a smile, "No need to be so polite. This is what master should do, and also what you deserve." Then, he put away the smile on his face and reminded her with a solemn expression, "Fong Man, when master accepted your eldest senior sister Yunxiang, I set a rule for myself. That is, for every new disciple, master will only prepare 3 gifts for their first meeting. You're not an exception." His mind entered the storage ring, and the victor, Yu Haoran, began to choose 3 suitable gifts for their first meeting. The storage magic tool and the jade slip of poison cultivation experience were the 2 gifts that he had decided on beforehand, so he didn't have to worry about preparing them. However, when it came to choosing the 3rd gift, he was in a dilemma. Although in the past year or so, he had slaughtered a lot of sects and had obtained a lot of rare treasures, but there were not many suitable gifts for Fong Man. First, he took out the storage ring and the jade slip of poison cultivation experience and gave them to Fong Man. Then, Yu Haoran began to discuss with his second clone about the 3rd gift. "Master, impart knowledge and dispel doubts." After hearing Yu Haoran mention the problem he was facing, his second clone thought for a moment and then said, "As a master, not only do I need to impart the top mental cultivation methods and martial skills to their disciples, but I also need to create an environment suitable for them to cultivate." Through his knowledge sea, his second clone pointed at the sealed moon pavilion outside the pavilion and reminded him, "Brother Yu, don't you feel that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in this courtyard is too thin and the quality is too disorderly?" In fact, the Holy Poison sect, which was close to the Mirror Lake Forest, had relatively sufficient spiritual chi of heaven and earth. As one of the top courtyards in the Holy Poison sect, the Sealed Moon Pavilion's spiritual chi of heaven and earth was more than 10 times that of the outside world. It was enough to satisfy the cultivation needs of some core and legacy disciples. However, for Feng Man, who had successfully awakened the divine dragon bloodline and was about to cultivate the canon of Poison Dao, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was clearly not rich enough. The second clone's question just now was obviously to further increase the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the Sealed Moon Pavilion. Chapter 1092. Holy Poison Sect, Inwa Pavilion. Brother Yu, I remember you got a spiritual gathering disc in the Star Tomb that can gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. After thinking for a while, the second avatar suddenly asked. That's right. Nodding, Yu Haoran took out the spiritual gathering disc that he got from the military camp in the Kaiyang Tomb. Brother Yu, I learned a formation that can gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth within 1,000 miles from the heavenly cycle star formation that you gave me. After receiving the spirit gathering disc, the second avatar carefully inspected and sensed it. Then, it spoke with strong confidence. With the help of the spiritual gathering disc, a lower level 7 spiritual vein, and the spiritual gathering formation that I learned, I can turn the Inua Pavilion into a real paradise. This paradise will be my third gift to your disciple. Brother Ran, I'll do it. Yu Haoran didn't care about the loss of the spiritual gathering disc and the lower level 7 spiritual vein at all. Brother Yu, first, use the sealing technique to seal the upper level 7 spiritual vein into the spiritual gathering disc. Knowing that Yu Haoran didn't want to expose the I Chi turning trinity in front of Feng Man, the second avatar didn't ask him to do it himself. After hearing the second avatar's instructions, Yu Haoran used his consciousness to transfer the spiritual gathering disc from the sea of consciousness to the real world. Then, he took out a lower level 7 spiritual vein from Xiao Keheo's storage ring. Master, what are you doing? Feng Man, who had been waiting for the third gift, frowned when she saw Yu Haoran take out the disc. She couldn't tell the grade of the disc, let alone its purpose. When she saw him take out a spiritual vein that looked like a divine dragon, she was shocked and even more puzzled. You'll know what the third gift is in a while. Yu Haoran didn't tell Feng Man about his plan because he didn't know the final effect of the paradise created by the second avatar. He was afraid that he wouldn't be satisfied with it in the end. Then, he left the pavilion in a flash and removed the talisman on the lower level 7 spiritual vein. Roar! The moment the seal was removed, the arm-sized dragon vein instantly broke free from Yu Haoran's hand and turned into a 1,000-meter-long spirit dragon. Then, it roared at the sky. Get back here! Seeing that the spirit vein had instantly reverted to its original form and was about to charge into the Mirror Lake Forest, Yu Haoran roared. Then, he used his elemental energy and soul power to form a giant palm. He directly grabbed the dragon tail of the spirit vein and forcefully pulled it back into the Sealed Moon Pavilion. Then he quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers and slowly sealed the spirit vein into the spirit gathering plate. Roar! As the spirit tail and spirit body continued to be sealed, the dragon head of the spirit vein was about to enter the spirit gathering disc. The dragon with the low-grade rank 7 spirit vein let out an unwilling roar and completely merged with the spirit gathering disc. Brother Yu, immediately bury the spirit gathering disc in the cultivation room. Just as the low-grade rank 7 spirit vein was sealed in the spirit gathering disc, the second avatar in Yu Haoran's mind immediately reminded him. In a flash, he appeared in front of the cultivation room of the Sealed Moon Pavilion. Without needing to enter the cultivation room, he used the giant palm that had not yet dissipated to grab the entire room and place the spirit gathering disc in the foundation of the room. Just as Yu Haoran placed the cultivation room in the cultivation room, the second avatar immediately ordered, Brother Yu, next, take out 81 pieces of level 7 spirit stones. Brother Yu, in the 4 cardinal directions, place 20 pieces of spirit stones in each of the 4 cardinal directions. The second avatar continued to instruct. After the 80 pieces of level 7 spirit stones were placed in place, Yu Haoran directly floated in the air above the sealed moon pavilion according to the second avatar's instructions. Brother Yu, next, you will form a seal as you wish and pretend to be setting up an array. The remaining spirit gathering seals will be personally used by me in order to successfully set up a spirit gathering array that had been comprehended with the help of the incomplete heavenly cycle star formation. Not only did it require a high level of cultivation in array formations, but it also required a proficient array formation technique. In the current situation of Yu Haoran's original body, it was impossible for him to successfully set up a spirit gathering array. Therefore, the second avatar could only do it himself. Yu Haoran wrapped the remaining spirit stone in his hand with his Yuan Qi and made it float in midair. Then, he pretended to form seals as he felt the second avatar setting up the spirit gathering array. As the second avatar in Yu Haoran's mind quickly formed the spirit gathering seals and merged them with the spirit stone, Yu Haoran clearly felt that the spirit stone floating in midair had formed a kind of traction connection with the 20 spirit stones in the east. The second seal, the third seal, after the fourth seal merged with the spirit stone, the entire sealed moon pavilion was immediately shrouded in streams of spirit qi. Go! Immediately after, the second avatar formed another 5 seals and imprinted them on the spirit stones at the same time. Then, he shouted at the spirit stones floating in midair. After that, the spirit stones floating in midair led hundreds of streams of spirit qi to the cultivation room. It was unknown whether the spirit stones that merged with the seals had become illusory or the walls of the cultivation room had become illusory. The spirit stones that collided with the walls of the cultivation room did not shatter into pieces or break through the walls. Instead, they merged directly into the cultivation room. In less than 3 seconds, white spirit qi that was visible to the naked eye suddenly exploded from the cultivation room. After sensing it carefully, Yu Haoran was surprised to find that the spirit qi in the cultivation room was at least 10 times more pure. As the spirit qi that emerged from the cultivation room became denser and denser, it was also confined to the sealed moon pavilion. In less than 5 minutes, the entire sealed moon pavilion gradually became moist. Moreover, at a position 81 meters above the sealed moon pavilion, a misty spirit rain began to fall. Taking a deep breath of the spirit rain that was falling from midair, Yu Haoran revealed a satisfied smile on his face. Then, he reminded the second avatar in Yu Haoran's mind. Brother Ran, continue to research and improve the grade of the spirit gathering formation. In the future, we will establish ourselves in the Tianxian continent's blessed enclave. As for how amazing we can achieve, it will all depend on you. Got it. Nodding his head, the second avatar sat down cross-legged and immersed himself in comprehending the formation once again. After that, Yu Haoran returned to the pavilion in a flash and asked Fong Man with a smile, How is it? How is it? Are you satisfied with the third gift from your master? Miracle! This is a miracle! Fong Man could not help but exclaim as she extended her hand out of the pavilion and allowed the spirit rain to fall on her palm. Then, it turned into a stream of pure spirit qi and merged into her body. Since you like it, then Master can rest assured. After hearing Fong Man's exclamation, Yu Haoran nodded his head in satisfaction. Then, he reminded Fong Man, the jade slip that Master left you contains a very detailed process of cultivating the way of poison, as well as any problems that may arise during the process. Therefore, for a short period of time, you can cultivate by yourself using the information in the jade slip. Chapter 1093. Holy Poison Sect, Sealed Moon Pavilion. Master, are you leaving? Fong Man looked at Yu Haoran reluctantly as she retracted her gaze from Lingyu. Fong Man, I'm afraid that I won't be able to stay in one place for long periods of time. You need to be mentally prepared that you won't be able to see me for a few months or even a few years. Even though saying this would make it seem as if he had neglected his duties as a master, he could only give Fong Man a heads up to prevent her from becoming even more disappointed in the future. Master, if I have any important matters that require your help, where should I go to find you? Even though she was very reluctant to see her master leave so soon, Fong Man was used to cultivating alone after many years as a loose cultivator. Therefore, she did not try to keep him any longer. She only hoped that when she missed her master or needed him, she would be able to find him as soon as possible. After hearing Fong Man's question, Yu Haoran carefully considered his situation. In the end, he could only take out a message transmission talisman from his storage ring and hand it to Fong Man. Fong Man, if you ever need my help, you only need to use this message transmission talisman to send me a message. I will definitely rush over as soon as possible. All right. Fong Man nodded helplessly as she reached out to take the message transmission talisman. Fong Man, cultivate well. I hope that in the near future, I will be able to hear of your name in the central region, in the Tianxin continent. Yu Haoran left behind his blessings and expectations as he rose into the air and left the sealed moon pavilion. As she watched Yu Haoran quickly leave the sealed moon pavilion and the holy poison sect, Fong Man slowly shed tears of reluctance. After Yu Haoran's figure had completely disappeared, Fong Man wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and muttered to herself in a determined tone. Master, don't worry. I will definitely not disappoint you. I will definitely become a powerful poison cultivator whose name will shake the entire Tianxin continent in the shortest time possible. I will let the world know that not only are you an omnipotent cultivator, the disciples you have taught are also the most outstanding. After secretly encouraging herself, Fong Man walked towards the cultivation room. She planned to carefully comprehend the Poison Dao cultivation experience that Yu Haoran had left behind and use it to comprehend the power of laws that belonged to her and break through to the martial saint realm. Because if he wanted to make a name for himself in a short period of time and increase his reputation in the Tianxin land, the hidden dragon ranking competition in less than 5 months would be the best opportunity. She had to face the challenges of the countless peerless and monstrous experts of the eastern region with the cultivation and strength of the strongest. Reaching out to push open the door of the cultivation room, Fong Man was immediately stunned by the spiritual liquid flowing inside the room. Rydok City, Yuan Pavilion. Sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room, Yu Haoran took a deep breath as he looked at the 36 top-notch herbs placed in front of him. Then he mobilized the fire in his dantian and began to use the void pill condensation technique to refine rank 3 first-grade rising dragon pills to break through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. The rising dragon pill was a supplementary pill that could increase one's flying speed. Depending on the grade of the medicinal pill, the soaring dragon pill's auxiliary flying speed was also different. For example, the rising dragon pill that he planned to refine this time could increase one's flying speed by nearly 256 times. It was also because of the powerful auxiliary effect of the rising dragon pill on one's flying speed that the refining of this pill was not inferior to the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill and the Ice Heart Jadebone pill. When a mobilized fire in his dantian floated in midair, Yu Haoran immediately formed a seal with both hands and used the void pill condensation technique's furnace. The so-called furnace made use of a special seal to compress the space around the pill fire, forming a sealed space that could prevent the spiritual power of the pill from leaking out. This was the first magical part of the void pill condensation technique. When the sealed space was completely formed, Yu Haoran immediately used his divine thought to throw one of the spiritual herbs into the pill fire. Compared to the pill fire of the furnace that had been upgraded 3 times, the pill fire formed in the dantian was 10 times worse in terms of temperature and the power of the flame. Therefore, the medicinal herbs that were thrown into the pill fire did not show any signs of melting into spiritual liquid. In this regard, Yu was not in a hurry. Instead, he continued to form seals with his 10 fingers and used the secret method recorded in the void pill condensation technique to continuously increase the power of the pill fire. As the secret method of the void pill condensation technique continued to increase the temperature and power of the pill fire in midair, the medicinal herbs in the pill fire began to slowly melt. As the power of the pill fire continued to increase, the speed of the medicinal herbs melting also became faster and faster. As a rising dragon pill that could increase one's flying speed by 256 times and had reached the third level of the first grade, not only did the number of medicinal herbs needed to refine the pill reach 36, but the lowest grade of each medicinal herb was the fourth level of the first grade, and the highest one was the third level of the third level. If the pill fire was used to melt the medicinal herbs, it would take at least 30 to 40 minutes. With the secret method of the void pill condensation technique, the power of the pill fire continued to increase. In less than 13 minutes, the 36 medicinal herbs had all melted. Moreover, the purity of each spiritual liquid did not need to be purified a second time and could be directly condensed into a pill. This was the second magical part of the void pill condensation technique. There was no need to use yuan qi to maintain the power of the pill fire. Yu Haoran took a second deep breath. After adjusting his breath for a while, he continued to form seals with his 10 fingers and began to perform the pill condensation technique. The pill condensation technique was not only the foundation to verify the ability of an alchemist, but also the key to whether the alchemist could refine the pill quickly and whether the pill could be formed. With the top pill condensation technique that he accidentally obtained in his previous life, he needed at least 72 seals to successfully condense the spiritual liquid in the pill fire into a turbid pill. 9 seals. Using the pill condensation technique recorded in the void pill condensation technique, he only needed 9 seals to successfully condense an apple-sized pill with a turbid color. At the same time, whether it was the speed of condensing the pill or the final success rate, it increased by a full 6 times. This was the third magical part of the void pill condensation technique. Just as Yu Haoran used the void pill condensation technique to successfully condense the spiritual liquid of the rising dragon pill, a suction force gradually formed in the practice room of Yuan Pavilion. A suction force began to draw in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in Yuan Pavilion. As the rising dragon pill began to enter the first stage of the warming process, the speed of drawing in the spiritual energy of the surroundings in the practice room was relatively gentle. But as Yu Haoran began to divide the pill and the final stage of accumulating power before the pill was formed, the gentle pulling force suddenly began to rage. The raging pulling force not only began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the heavenly world chamber of commerce, but also began to forcibly gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the entire Rydok city. Chapter 1094. In the Rydok city, when countless masters and powerhouses discovered that the reason for the change in the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the city came from the Yuan Pavilion of the Celestial Chamber of Commerce, those who had spread out their divine senses quickly withdrew, and those who flew up immediately returned to their rooms. Because it was no secret in a Rydok city who was temporarily staying in the Yuan Pavilion of the Celestial Chamber of Commerce, who knew that it was a legendary figure who did not want to, and was willing to provoke. In the practice room of the Yuan Pavilion, the elixir fire of the nihility pill condensation technique was also far more effective in nourishing elixirs than the elixir fire of the elixir furnace. Therefore, just as Yu Haoran finished adjusting his breath, the nourishing process of the elixir was over. Looking at the originally turbid elixir that was now completely crystal clear, Yu Haoran did not delay and continued to use the method of dividing elixirs recorded in the nihility pill condensation technique. He easily separated 9 identical elixirs that contained the same energy. This was the fourth magical part of the nihility pill condensation technique. The nourishing process of the elixir after dividing the elixir was the same as the nourishing process after condensing the elixir. Not only did the nourishing process take less time, But the effect of nourishing the elixir was also 10 times that of using ordinary alchemy methods. Looking at the 9 glittering and translucent elixirs floating in the elixir fire, Howard's originally relaxed expression gradually became serious. Because the next step was completely against the standard steps of alchemy. Taking a deep breath, his 10 fingers began to quickly form the devouring imprint, further increasing the energy contained in the elixir. Under normal circumstances, the elixir would be produced immediately after the nourishing of the elixir fire ended. But the elixir refined with the nihility pill condensation technique was different, because before the elixir was produced, there was still a special imprint that could further enhance the energy inside the elixir, increasing the success rate of producing the elixir and the success rate of producing the elixir. This was the most magical part of the nihility pill condensation technique. It was also the key to rapidly improving one's alchemy cultivation. During the process of condensing and dividing the elixir, the traction force formed in the practice room only absorbed the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the entire Rydok city. However, before the pill was formed, he used the formless pill condensation technique to enhance the energy of the pill. The speed and quantity of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the cultivation room instantly increased by dozens of times. The rapidly expanding suction force not only enveloped the entire Rydok's mountain, but also attracted the attention of the hundreds of experts and powerhouses who were watching the sword tower pass the tests. Moreover, the suction force didn't weaken in the slightest, and it quickly spread to Left Ox Mountain, attracting the attention of countless experts and powerhouses on Left Ox Mountain. In the Twin Ox Mountains, the Right Ox Mountain belonged to the southern region, while the Left Ox Mountain belonged to the central region. Although Twin Oxen Mountain was not ruled by any faction, and there were no restrictions on where one could live, everyone subconsciously chose a city that suited their status. In other words, most of the experts from the southern region chose to live in the Rydok city, whereas the experts from the central region chose to live in the Left Ox city. The experts and powerhouses from the southern region admired Howard's way of handling matters and his amazing talent in alchemy. However, this did not represent the thoughts of some people in the central region. When they saw the reason for the loss of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, it turned out to be the Yuan Pavilion in the Rydok city. Some of the experts and powerhouses from the Left Ox city began to use special formation flags to intercept the loss of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Another group of experts and powerhouses aggressively rushed to the Yuan Pavilion in the heavenly earth in the Rydok city, intending to denounce Howard. In the Yuan Pavilion, 10 minutes. It took him a full 10 minutes to use the formless pill condensation technique to enhance the energy inside the 9 pills. At this moment, the 9 pills in the elixir fire were not only close to transparent in color, but also reduced in size by nearly 1/3. This meant that the final number and grade of the 9 rising dragon pills had far exceeded his initial plan. Looking at the 9 pills that had gradually begun to reject the energy entering them, Howard knew that the energy in the pills had reached its limit. He decisively stopped the use of the formless pill condensation technique, and then directly removed the space around the elixir fire and withdrew the elixir fire floating in the air. Just as the elixir fire was withdrawn, the 9 rising dragon pills that had been completely formed suddenly turned into 9 pure white dragons that exuded a strong elixir fragrance. The bodies of the dragons, which were constantly expanding, directly burst the cultivation room. The experts and powerhouses from the central region, who had just rushed to the Yuan Pavilion to denounce Howard, were shocked. Elixir essence transforming into dragons. This is the method of an alchemy grandmaster. An alchemy grandmaster from the central region cried out in shock as he looked at the 9 dragons that were emitting a rich pill aroma hovering in the air. Hearing the alchemy grandmaster shout, hundreds of experts and powerhouses from the central region could not help but change their expressions. Although there was only one more word between Grandmaster and Alchemy Grandmaster, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. This was because Alchemy Grandmasters could only refine elixirs that were suitable for people below the martial sage realm. However, Alchemy Grandmasters could refine top-notch elixirs that were suitable for quasi-martial honorables and martial honorables. If it wasn't for the fact that Yuhauran was able to refine the 5 Lives Profound Gate and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill that could help a quasi-martial saint break through to the martial saint realm, he wouldn't have been able to receive treatment that wasn't inferior to that of a great Grandmaster of Alchemy. Now that Yuhauran had successfully broken through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm, wouldn't he be able to refine top-notch elixirs that could help a martial honorable break through to the martial honorable realm? This is a rank 3, grade 9 Rising Dragon Pill. The Alchemy Grandmaster from the Central Region, who had barely stabilized his shock, cried out in shock when he saw the 9 dragons turn back into elixirs. Furthermore, there was a lifelike white dragon inside each of the nearly transparent elixirs. Grandmaster Su, are you sure this is a rank 3, grade 9 Rising Dragon Pill? A second tribulation quasi-martial honorable from the Central Region asked in a trembling voice. That's right. After taking a deep breath and suppressing the shock in his heart, the Alchemy Grandmaster with the surname Su said with certainty, I'm 100% sure that these 9 elixirs are rank 3, grade 9, Rising Dragon Pills. Sizzle. After hearing Grandmaster Su's confirmation, the hundreds of experts and powerhouses floating in the air could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was the first time Yuhauran had refined elixirs after breaking through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm. Not only had the elixirs taken shape, but he had also refined 9 elixirs. This was enough to show that Yuhauran had accumulated a lot of experience before breaking through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm. Chapter 1095. In Yuan Pavilion. The peak of the Alchemy Grandmaster realm was able to refine top-notch elixirs that could help raise the level of a martial honorable. With Yuhauran's talent and methods in alchemy that were far beyond that of a monstrous genius, perhaps he now had the ability to directly refine a rank 3, grade 1 Supreme Hua Pill that could help martial sages and quasi-martial honorables break through to the martial honorable realm. The rank 3, rank 1 Supreme Hua Elixir seemed to be inferior to the rank 3, rank 9 Supreme Hua Elixir. However, that was not the case. Firstly, regardless of whether it was the rank 3, rank 1, or rank 3, rank 9 Supreme Hua Elixir, only 36 herbs were needed to refine them. The rank 3, rank 1 Supreme Hua Elixir, on the other hand, required 108 herbs. The main herb, the 9-tailed dragon sunflower, was a rank 2, rank 1 Supreme Hua Elixir. Secondly, refining the Supreme Hua Elixir not only required profound alchemy skills and experience, but also a deep understanding of the power of law. For Yuhauran, his alchemy skills and experience, as well as the speed of his cultivation, were enough to prove that he had a high chance of refining the rank 3, rank 1 Supreme Hua Elixir. He could refine the Supreme Hua Elixir that had a 50% chance of breaking through to the martial honorable realm. Thinking of this, the dozens of martial sages floating in the air above Yuan Pavilion were immediately replaced by the idea of how to curry favor with Yuhauran. Yuhauran stood up and ignored the hundreds of cultivators floating in the air above Yuan Pavilion. He waved at the 9 Supreme Hua Elixirs in the air. Then, the 9 Supreme Hua Elixirs that had turned into 9 gusts of wind instantly fell into the elixir bottle that he had prepared beforehand. Yuhauran took out one of the Supreme Hua Elixirs and observed it carefully. Although his expression did not change in the slightest, his heart surged with shock like a stormy sea. The Supreme Hua Elixir that he had just refined was not only a rank 3, rank 9 Supreme Hua Elixir, but the elixir essence inside the elixir also confirmed his current alchemy cultivation. He had directly broken through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm and reached the peak of the Alchemy Grandmaster realm. He closed his eyes and carefully recalled how he had used the nothingness pill condensation technique to increase the energy inside the elixir before the last 9 supreme Hua elixirs were refined. He had broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. Divine skill. The nihility congealing pill is really a divine skill. Yu Haoran couldn't help but sigh in his heart. After carefully recalling the process of the breakthrough in his alchemy cultivation, he knew that his true alchemy cultivation was still at the beginner alchemy grandmaster realm. However, the reason why he was able to refine a 3rd stage 9th grade rising dragon pill was entirely due to the effect of the nothingness pill condensation technique. This was because not only did the nihility pill condensation technique increase the success rate of forming pills by nearly 60%, but it also increased the grade of the pills to the 9th grade of the 3rd step in the process of strengthening the internal energy of the pills. After letting out a long sigh of relief, Yu Haoran placed the rising dragon pill back into the pill bottle. He then raised his head and greeted Shen Jinwen, who was standing outside Yuan Pavilion. "Shopkeeper Shun, please come in. Congratulations, Prince Consort." Congratulations, Prince Consort, for successfully breaking through the realm of Alchemy Grandmaster and becoming the most honorable person in the Tianxian land. Shen Jinwen pushed open the door and entered Yuan Pavilion. He ignored the cultivation room that had been destroyed by the dragon transformation pill and congratulated Yu Haoran with a face full of smiles. "Thank you very much." Yu Haoran cupped his fists and thanked him. He pointed to the destroyed cultivation room and said apologetically, "Shopkeeper Shun, I'm really sorry." "Huh?" In the face of Yu Haoran's apology, Shen Jinwen laughed happily and said indifferently, "Compared with Prince Consort's success in breaking through the realm of Alchemy Grandmaster, even if you destroyed Yuan Pavilion and the entire Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce in the Rydok City, it would be worth it, let alone destroying a cultivation room. Even so, this Prince Consort is still a little apologetic." Shen Jinwen's forthright attitude made Yu Haoran feel very satisfied. At the same time, his alchemy cultivation had broken through the realm of Alchemy Grandmaster, and the heaven-defying effect of the nihility pill condensation technique had also made him feel very good. Moreover, he needed Shen Jinwen to continue to arrange for the reconstruction of the cultivation room, so that he could prepare to refine the pills to awaken the Thowling pill. Therefore, he poured out 3 Tunglong pills from the pill bottle that had not yet been put away. He wrapped them with primordial qi and sent them directly to Shen Jinwen. He said with a smile, "These 3 Tunglong pills of rank 3, grade 9, can be regarded as my compensation to your association." After hearing that the 3 Tunglong pills were compensation for the loss of the Chamber of Commerce, Shen Jinwen, who originally wanted to postpone, could only reach out and take the pills. After all, he was only a person in charge of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce in the Rydok City. He did not have much power to decide some important things. What's more, the Tunglong pill of rank 3, grade 9, could assist in increasing the flying speed by 500 times, which was basically close to the speed of teleportation. It was not only the best auxiliary pill for escaping, but also the market value was as high as billions of rank 9, grade 1 spirit stones. It was not something that he, a small branch head, could decide whether he could postpone it or not. Looking at Shen Jinwen, who put away the pills, Yu Haoran continued with a smile. "In addition, I promised to refine pills for Shopkeeper Shun for free once." "Prince Consort, really?" Shen Jinwen, whose voice was a little trembling, asked in disbelief. "Yes." Nodding, Yu Haoran confirmed. After receiving Yu Haoran's confirmation, Shen Jinwen took 3 deep breaths in a row. After barely suppressing the surging surprise in his heart, he closed his eyes and began to think about the pills that he needed to refine. The 3 pills that could help a quasi-martial venerable to pass through the 3 tribulations were the pills that he really needed. But this idea was immediately forcibly extinguished by him. Not to mention refining the 3 pills to help pass through the tribulations, he needed a huge amount of top medicinal materials, which he could not collect in a short time. Moreover, The consumption of primordial energy, soul power, and mind during the refining process of these 3 pills was also astonishing. What's more, these 3 pills would also be baptized by the thunder tribulation when they were refined, which also posed a certain threat to alchemists. After thinking about it, Shun Jinwen finally thought of a pill. Although it could not improve his cultivation and strength, it could let him return to his family and enjoy the happiness of family again. Prince Consort, can you refine a look-preserving pill for me? Looks like shopkeeper Shun is also a person with a story. It was not a pill that could help him pass through the 3 tribulations, nor was it a pill that could help him break through the bottleneck of his cultivation, nor was it a pill that could prolong his life. It was a look-preserving pill that could preserve his youth. After hearing Shun Jinwen's request, Yu Haoran could not help but laugh and tease him. Ha! Facing Yu Haoran's teasing, Shun Jinwen smiled awkwardly and explained, "The mistakes that you made when you were young, now that you are old, you want to sincerely make up for them." Seeing Shun Jinwen's awkwardness, Yu Haoran immediately stopped teasing him and asked. Chapter 1096. In Yuan Pavilion. What's the highest grade of the look-preserving pill that Prince Consort can refine now? Asking about the grade of the look-preserving pill meant that not only did Yu Haoran have the recipe for the look-preserving pill, but he was also confident that he could successfully refine it. Shun Jinwen was pleasantly surprised and quickly asked, "The higher the grade of the look-preserving pill, the longer it could preserve a woman's youth. With my current alchemy skills and experience, I should be able to refine a grade 3 look-preserving pill between grade 1 and grade 9. Without much consideration, Yu Haoran gave the answer directly. After all, the refining of the look-preserving pill was not complicated. It was just that the process of nourishing the pill after splitting the pill was more demanding. This was not difficult for him, who had the void pill condensation technique. Prince Consort, there's no need for such a high-grade look-preserving pill. After hearing Yu Haoran's answer, Shun Jinwen quickly shook his head. A grade 3 look-preserving pill could preserve a woman's appearance for 5,000 years. This was too wasteful for a woman who had no hope of breaking through to the martial honorable realm. I only need a grade 4 look-preserving pill. Shun Jinwen quickly gave the grade of the look-preserving pill that he wanted. Shopkeeper Shun, once you've collected enough herbs to refine a grade 4 look-preserving pill, you can come to me directly. After nodding in agreement, Yu Haoran turned around and left his request when he returned to the attic bedroom. Also, I'll have to trouble shopkeeper Shun to repair the cultivation room as soon as possible. I want to continue using it. In 2 hours, the cultivation room will be restored to its original state. Shun Jinwen nodded heavily and immediately left Yuan Pavilion to arrange for his subordinates to rebuild the cultivation room. Yu Zongshi, please wait. Just as Yu Haoran was about to push open the door of the attic, a second tribulation quasi-martial honorable floating in Yuan Pavilion hurriedly urged him to stay. Who are you and what's the matter? Yu Haoran asked indifferently as he withdrew his left hand that was pushing open the door. He turned around and looked at the second tribulation quasi-martial honorable floating in midair. The second tribulation quasi-martial honorable quickly landed in front of Yu Haoran and respectfully introduced himself. My surname is Tao, and my name is Qing Shui. I'm from the Tao clan of the Central Region's Nanyang County. After introducing himself respectfully, Tao Qing Shui hesitated for a moment before finally gritting his teeth and asking, "May I ask if Yu Zongshi can successfully refine a level 3 first-grade Huazuandan?" In response to Tao Qing Shui's question, Yu Haoran placed his hands behind his back and spoke with a slightly mocking expression. 2 questions. Yu Zongshi, please speak. Ignoring the sarcasm in Yu Haoran's questioning tone, Tao Qing Shui listened respectfully. As a supreme Hua pill that has a 50% chance of helping one break through to the martial honor realm, not only are all the medicinal ingredients needed to refine the pill top-notch, but the main ingredient is a second-level first-grade 9-tailed dragon sunflower. Can you find it? This. In response to Yu Haoran's questioning, Tao Qing Shui did not know how to answer. The nine-tailed dragon sunflower was an accompanying spiritual medicine of a special exotic beast. It contained the basic attributes of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, as well as the 4 mutated attributes of wind, thunder, light, and darkness. Not only was the nine-tailed dragon sunflower very rare, but as a special exotic beast that guarded it, it was a 9-headed snake that was as powerful as a divine dragon. The 9-headed snake had 9 heads on its tail. Each head possessed a different attribute. When each head reached adulthood, its strength would be comparable to a level 3 tribulation quasi-martial honorable. Furthermore, the 9 heads of the 9-headed snake could fight against its enemies alone and could also perform a joint attack. By combining the power of the 9 attributes, it possessed an irresistible destructive force that could severely injure a martial honorable. Ignoring Tao Ching Shui's speechlessness, Yu Haoran continued to ask, "If you want me, Yu Haoran, to refine a level 3 first-grade Huazuan Dan, what price can you pay?" This, in response to Yu Haoran's second question, Tao Ching Shui still did not know how to answer. "Go back," Yu Haoran said calmly as he turned around and walked into the room in the attic. "When you are ready, come to Yuan Pavilion to look for me." Looking at the closed door, Tao Ching Shui flew into the air excitedly. Then, ignoring the greetings of the surrounding people, he flew away from the Twin Bull Mountain and went straight to the Tao family in the Central Region's southern Sun County. "Grandmaster Su, what did Yu Zongshi mean by what he said just now?" Looking at Tao Ching Shui, who was leaving the Twin Bull Mountain quickly, the crowd could only look at Grandmaster Su, who was proficient in elixir refining. Then, they were surprised to find that Grandmaster Su was clenching his fists tightly. His breathing gradually became heavier, and his face was filled with excitement. A level 9 martial saint who knew him asked. Grandmaster Su took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the surging joy in his heart. His voice trembled slightly as he explained. Yu Zongshi's words just now showed that he is confident in refining a level 3 first-grade Huazuan Dan, and he also agreed to help. The only requirement is that everyone needs to prepare the 108 herbs needed to refine the supreme Huazuan Dan, and you need to give Yu Zongshi something that is worth it. Those who knew each other looked at each other, while those who were alone lowered their heads and pondered for a while. Then, everyone instantly left Yuan Pavilion and the Twin Bull Mountain, and quickly returned to their respective forces. Seeing that the sky above Yuan Pavilion was completely empty in less than 3 seconds, Yu Haoran could not help but smile slightly. Even with the miraculous skill of the Nihility pill condensation technique, and the assistance of the heavenly pure divine water and the blood of the divine beast Kirin, he only had a 10% chance of refining a level 3 first-grade Huazuan Dan. After all, the supreme Huazuan Dan was a heaven-defying elixir that could help one break through to the martial honorable realm. However, he knew very well that the forces in the entire Tianxian continent that could take out the 108 herbs needed to refine the supreme Huazuan Dan could be counted on one hand. Those who could gather the 108 herbs, especially those who could obtain the 9-tailed dragon sunflower, would at least have a peerless powerhouse in the martial honorable realm. In that case, they might not need to pay an unbearable price to ask him to refine the supreme Huazuan Dan. Therefore, being able to refine the supreme Huazuan Dan was just a way to advertise, a way to greatly increase one's reputation, and a way to intimidate other forces. Yu Haoran retracted his divine thought from the sky above Yuan Pavilion and slowly closed his eyes. He began to consolidate his alchemy grandmaster realm that he had just broken through to, and further familiarized himself with the entire refining process of the awakening Thaling Dan. Just as Yu Haoran was immersed in consolidating his alchemy grandmaster realm, a storm gradually blew in the Twin Bull Mountain. The source of the storm was that not only had Yu Haoran successfully broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm, but he had also successfully refined a level 3 9th grade soaring dragon pill. Chapter 1097. In the palace of Xianyang City. Your Majesty, I'd like to resign. Tung Yunjie bowed as he looked at Emperor Qin, who was sitting on the dragon throne. Emperor Qin asked in an unusually gentle manner as he put down the secret report in his hand. Young Yunjie, could it be that my arrangement is not to your liking? Or did some ignorant fellow offend you? Tell me, I'll avenge you. Your Majesty, you're exaggerating. The middle-aged man sitting behind the desk was not only the emperor of Emperor Qin's kingdom, but he was also a third calamity quasi-martial honorable with an emperor's sword. Even though the two of them were relatives, Tung Yunjie did not dare to be too casual and presumptuous. Thanks to your Majesty's favor, I've been living comfortably and having fun. I'm also fortunate enough to get to know a few talented princes. However, as the Hidden Dragon Roll contest is getting closer, I'd like to go out and train so that I can continue to increase my strength. Sigh. Emperor Qin could not help but sigh as he looked at Tung Yunjie, who was calm and reasonable. He then thought of Qin Tianze, who refused to stay in the palace for a woman. His tone was apologetic. Yunjie, the reason why I asked Sky Martial Sect to send you to Emperor Qin's kingdom is because the secret land that belongs to Emperor Qin's kingdom is about to open. I hope that through the training in the secret land, you can become more powerful and accumulate more potential. However, I didn't expect that one of the keys to open the secret land would be lost, causing the opening of the secret land to be delayed. Your Majesty, you don't have to blame yourself. I don't have a strong desire to open the secret land. Tung Yunjie immediately comforted him in fear and trepidation when the emperor personally apologized to him. He then changed his tone and revealed a look of yearning. Furthermore, when Yunjie passed by the Twin Oxen Mountain, he got to know the prince consort of the Sword Tower. They established a rather good relationship. Therefore, Yunjie did not leave the imperial palace to return to the Sky Martial School. Instead, he planned to go to the 100 Qi Gate to see the place where the emperor's son-in-law used to live. After that, he wanted to see what kind of respected elder could have taught the emperor's son-in-law to be such an extraordinary genius. Hearing Tung Yunjie mention Yu Haoran, Emperor Qin, who was deeply gratified, laughed heartily. Emperor Qin believed that being able to discover Yu Haoran's extraordinariness in advance and use marriage to successfully rope him in was the most successful and proudest thing he had ever done. After the laughter ended, Emperor Qin nodded and reminded Tung Yunjie, "Since you want to go to the 100 Qi Gate, I will not ask you to stay any longer. However, you must leave behind a communication jade token so that you can contact me at any time. In this way, I will know your situation at any time and can also inform you immediately when the secret land opens. Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty. I will take my leave now." After leaving behind the communication jade token specially made by the Sky Martial School, Tung Yunjie slowly retreated to the door of the study. When he was about to turn around and leave, he bumped into Director Jiang, who was pleasantly surprised. "Young Master Yunjie, please forgive me. I was too anxious to notice you." Seeing that he bumped into Tung Yunjie, whom even the emperor thought highly of, Director Jiang, whose surprise was replaced by panic, hurriedly apologized. "Don't worry, Director Jiang. I'm also partly responsible." Tung Yunjie, who was not angry at all, comforted him with a smile. "Director Jiang, what's the matter?" Seeing that Director Jiang, who had been following him for almost 30 years and had always been calm, was so flustered today, Emperor Qin asked with a slightly gloomy face. "Your Majesty, there's news about the consort." Director Jiang held a communication jade token with both hands and handed it to Emperor Qin. There was no panic in his eyes when he was reprimanded. Instead, there was only uncontrollable surprise. Tung Yunjie, who was about to leave the study, immediately retracted his left leg when he heard Director Jiang mention Yu Haoran. He then turned to look at Emperor Qin. How is this possible? After reading the message in the communication jade token with his mind, Emperor Qin suddenly stood up with a look of disbelief on his face. "Your Majesty, what happened to the consort?" Yu Haoran's safety was related to whether the Sky Martial School's Tung family's patriarch could successfully break through the soul tribulation of the prospective Emperor Wu. Therefore, after seeing the flustered Emperor Qin, Tung Yunjie quickly walked to the desk and asked nervously. The consort has successfully broken through to the alchemy Grandmaster realm, Emperor Qin said with a complicated expression as he put down the communication jade token in his hand. Your Majesty, when I parted with the consort back then, the consort told me personally that he was confident that he could break through to the alchemy Grandmaster realm in 1 to 2 months. After hearing Emperor Qin's reply, Tung Yunjie secretly sighed a breath of relief and reminded him without feeling surprised at all. It has been almost 1.5 months since we parted back then. It's only natural that the consort's alchemy Grandmaster realm broke through. Yunjie, when the consort broke through to the alchemy Grandmaster realm, he successfully refined 9 rank 3, grade 9 rising dragon pills. Seeing that Tung Yunjie was not surprised at all, Emperor Qin curled his lips slightly and revealed the second important message mentioned in the communication jade token. Tung Yunjie's body trembled slightly as he looked at Emperor Qin in shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief and a hint of surprise. Yunjie, after the consort successfully refined the rank 3, grade 9 rising dragon pills, he personally admitted that he could refine the rank 3, grade 1 supreme hua pill and was willing to help. Emperor Qin was very dissatisfied with Tung Yunjie's shock performance just now, so he continued to reveal the third message in the communication jade token. After hearing the third message revealed by Emperor Qin, Tung Yunjie took 5 steps back due to extreme shock and asked in a trembling voice, Your Majesty, is what you said just now true? I can't believe it either, but the news is absolutely true. Finally satisfied with Tung Yunjie's panic after hearing about Yu Haoran's amazing performance, Emperor Qin sat back on the dragon throne and nodded to confirm. Your Majesty, I want to return to the Heavenly Martial Sect immediately. After receiving Emperor Qin's confirmation, Tung Yunjie closed his eyes and thought for a while. After opening his eyes, he immediately asked for his resignation from Emperor Qin. Yunjie, with the Heavenly Martial Sect strength, I'm afraid they've also received the news at this moment. The sect master and the few elders will decide how to deal with the strong impact of this news. Emperor Qin shook his head and rejected Tung Yunjie's request to return to the Heavenly Martial Sect. Your Majesty, you don't understand. I have a reason to return to the Heavenly Martial Sect immediately. Tung Yunjie shook his head and continued to request with a firm attitude. Chapter 1098. In the palace of Xianyang City. Looking straight into Tung Yunjie's eyes, Emperor Qin could not suppress the surprise in his eyes. A thought gradually emerged in his mind. Tung Yunjie might know the whereabouts of the 9-tailed dragon sunflower, the main ingredient needed to refine the supreme Hua Xiao pill. He urgently needed to inform the awakened martial honorables in the Heavenly Martial Sect to kill the 9-tailed snake and fight for the 9-tailed dragon sunflower. All right, although the Qin Emperor also wanted to obtain the 9-tailed dragon sunflower and use his special relationship with Yu Haoran to get him to help him refine the supreme Hua pill, the special relationship between the great Qin royal family and the Heavenly Martial Sect made the Qin Emperor forcefully suppress the greed that had just emerged in his heart. He then nodded and agreed to let Tung Yunjie return to the Heavenly Martial Sect immediately. Then, he reminded him like an elder. Yunjie, as the news of the prince consort being able to refine the supreme Hua Xiao pill spreads, the entire Tianxin continent will definitely be stirred up. So, you must be careful on your way back to the Heavenly Martial Sect. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. I'll leave now. After cupping his fists, Tung Yunjie immediately turned and left the study. He did not care about being rude as he soared into the sky and went straight to the Twin Bull Mountain. Although I know that the prince consort has a talent in alchemy that ordinary people can't enlighten, I didn't expect this kid to bring me such a big surprise. Looking at Tung Yunjie who left the study, Emperor Qin seemed to be signed to Director Jiang, but also seemed to be talking to himself. Ling Fei and the prince consort haven't met for a long time. She should go to the Twin Bull Mountain to visit the prince consort and bring a congratulatory gift for me. Then, Emperor Qin instructed Director Jiang. Steward Jiang, Princess Lingfei is here to see you. Yes, Your Majesty. Director Jiang responded and immediately left the study. In a meeting hall of the Bailey clan in the central region, the clan leader of the Bailey clan, Bailey Schwani, was holding a communication jade talisman with 2 fingers. His expression was sometimes shocked, sometimes frightened, sometimes relieved, and sometimes hesitant. The complex and ever-changing emotions lasted for nearly 10 minutes before they finally settled down in determination. Men, Bailey Schwani raised his head and shouted towards the outside of the meeting hall. Patriarch! The guards who entered the meeting hall immediately knelt on the ground to receive the order. Inform the 5th elder immediately to treat Shin Hokong and try to gain his forgiveness, Bailey Schwani ordered. Yes. After the guard responded, he got up and left the meeting hall. Looks like I'll have to ask the old ancestor for help. I'll have to trouble him to fight for the 9-tailed dragon Sunflower in Death Valley. Bailey Schwani muttered to himself as he stood up and left the Patriarch's throne. Supreme Transformation Pill. I'm afraid this is the only chance for me to break through to the Martial Saint realm. In the depths of an unknown mountain range on the border between the central region and the eastern region, an azure dragon that was almost 10,000 meters long slowly emerged from the depths of the mountain range. Its large eyes stared at the distant twin Ox Mountain as it muttered to itself. If the Tianxian continent wants to maintain its balance, it must eliminate all the existences that disrupt the balance. An alchemy grandmaster who can refine the supreme transformation pill is the existence that disrupts the balance. Xianjiu Xianshi. After muttering to itself, the azure dragon shouted towards a giant mountain that was about 7,000 meters tall. Ninth Elder. Ninth Elder. Following the call of the azure dragon, the void in front of it suddenly tore apart, and 2 young men who were about 30 years old appeared. Their auras were as deep as the sea. The seal of the aura of the mountain range will be lifted in a month. After that, head to the twin Ox Mountain immediately and kill an alchemy grandmaster called Yu Haoran. The azure dragon instructed the 2 young men. Yes, Ninth Elder. The 2 young men knelt down on one knee and tore apart the void again, returning to the mountain where they were hiding. After Xianjiu and Xianshi left, the azure dragon raised its head and looked towards the north. It looked at the white-bone city that was a few million kilometers away from the mountain range and continued to mutter to itself. I wonder if the white-bone's supremacy has completely refined the Heaven Slayer demon supremacy to be able to deal with the increasingly complicated situation of the world. Then, the azure dragon raised its head that was as huge as a mountain and looked at the void above its head. A cold light flashed in its eyes. Yuan Pavilion. Yu Haoran sat cross-legged in the cultivation room that Shun Jinwen had rebuilt. His frown did not ease at all. 11 days. It had been 11 days since he had broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. In these 11 days, no, to be more precise, since the 3rd day, he began to receive warm greetings from countless sects and clans in the central region, east, west, south, and north regions. In the beginning, he was patient enough to meet them and make false promises that could not be fulfilled. However, as more and more forces met him and their requests became more and more outrageous, he became less and less patient to deal with them. This was because these sects and clans who came to visit, other than hoping to obtain the promise of refining the Supreme Hua pill, they also wanted to ask him to refine some other pills that could increase the strength of the Martial Sage, Quasi-Martial Venerable, and Martial Venerable realm. Based on the number and grade of the pills that these people asked for, he did not have to do anything for the next 100 years. He just had to refine pills for these people. Helpless, he could only hang a sign that said he was in seclusion at the entrance of the courtyard, hoping that those people would retreat and not disturb him. Unfortunately, his identity as an alchemy grandmaster and the ability to refine the Supreme Hua pill had a strong deterrent effect on the top experts. However, for some of the hedonistic disciples who did not know the true meaning of the alchemy grandmaster and the Supreme Hua pill, His method of seclusion was useless. Boom! Hearing the sound of the courtyard door shattering outside the cultivation room, Yu Haoran was so numb that he could not be angry. He scanned the courtyard with his divine sense and saw that the person who shattered the courtyard door was a young man of about 18 or 19 years old with a cultivation of only a third-grade martial king. He habitually ordered He Xiong, who was guarding the cultivation room. He Xiong, smash him into a meat patty. Boom! Yu Haoran, who had just closed his eyes, abruptly opened them with a loud roar as they clashed. His divine sense quickly scanned the courtyard, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Then, he got up and left the cultivation room with a gloomy face. Looking at He Xiong, who had fainted and vomited blood, Yu Haoran walked to He Xiong's side gloomily and carefully checked its injuries. He found that its internal organs had been forcefully displaced, and nearly 2/3 of its meridians were broken. If it was not for the protection of the ancient divine beast bloodline, its dantian would have been destroyed. Chapter 1099. In Yuan Pavilion, Yu Haoran regained his composure as he looked at the first tribulation quasi-martial honorable elder who had severely injured the black bear. I am from the Central Region's Yang clan. I am currently an external elder of the Yang clan. The elder from the Yang clan spoke arrogantly as he looked at Yu Haoran, whose expression was as calm as water, but whose eyes were constantly flashing with killing intent. Your beast pet, the black bear, actually dared to launch a sneak attack on the direct descendant of the Yang clan. I have already given you face by not killing him on the spot. Yu Haoran looked coldly at the elder from the Yang clan, and then at the arrogant direct descendant of the Yang clan. He then turned his gaze towards Shun Jinwen and asked, Shopkeeper Shun, how many direct descendants and branch descendants are there in the Central Region's Yang clan? Shun Jinwen turned his head to look at the elder from the Yang clan and ignored the threat in his eyes. He then took out a special jade talisman and contacted the headquarters in the Central Region. 3 minutes later, Shun Jinwen, who had kept the jade talisman, replied in detail. Prince Consort, the Yang clan has been around for a total of 7,938 years. There are 1,670 direct descendants and 13,586 branch descendants. After hearing Shun Jinwen's reply, Yu Haoran nodded his head. Then, he slowly rose 9 meters into the air and looked at the experts from the various sects and clans who were waiting for him outside Yuan Pavilion. He then spoke with a cold expression. I, Yu Haoran, hereby promise that whoever can kill 1,670 direct descendants and 13,580 branch descendants in one day, I will help him refine a supreme Huazuan pill for free. After Yu Haoran made his promise, countless martial sages and quasi-martial honorables outside Yuan Pavilion immediately had a fiery impulse in their eyes. The experts from the sects and clans that were more powerful than the Yang clan immediately took out special communication jade talismans and informed the upper echelons of Yu Haoran's promise. The quasi-martial honorable from the Yang clan asked through gritted teeth as his expression changed. Surnamed Yu, are you declaring war on our Yang family? After coldly looking at the elder from the Yang clan, Yu Haoran ignored his threat. He then took out a rank 3/9 rank rising dragon pill from his storage ring and continued speaking to the quasi-martial honorable outside Yuan Pavilion. Whoever kills this person for me, this rank 3/9 rank rising dragon pill will belong to him. Yu Zongshi, are you serious? A second tribulation quasi-martial honorable immediately asked. Everyone who is familiar with me, Yu Haoran, knows that I'm a man of my word. Yu Haoran was not angry at all when faced with the second tribulation quasi-martial honorable stouts. If you don't believe me, I can give you this rising dragon pill right now. True to his word, Yu Haoran immediately wrapped the medicinal pill with essence energy and delivered the rising dragon pill in front of the other party. Yang Shozhuang, give me your life. After receiving the rising dragon pill, the second tribulation quasi-martial honorable immediately charged towards the elder from the Yang clan with a sinister expression. Su Kaiying, if you dare to kill me, the Yang clan will not let you off. Yang Shouzhuang threatened the second tribulation quasi-martial honorable who was brimming with killing intent. Yang Shouzhuang, I'm sorry to tell you this. I've just received news that 15 quasi-martial honorable elders of the Wei clan, as well as 73 7th grade martial saints and above, have already charged towards the Yang clan's residence. The moment before she attacked, Su Kaiying suddenly revealed a piece of news that Yang Shouzhuang found hard to accept and caused him to become absent-minded. His strength was originally inferior to Su Kaiying's, and he had also become absent-minded for a short period of time. In the end, Su Kaiying directly smashed his head and took away his storage ring. Looking at the Yang clan's direct descendant, who was already scared silly, Yu Haoran nodded towards Shen Jinwen. Then, Shen Jinwen directly smashed the head of the Yang clan's young man. Yu Haoran spoke calmly as he continued to rise 9 meters into the air and looked down at the hundreds of people below. I, Yu Haoran, lack many things, but I do not lack the ability to refine various types of pills. For example, the elemental spirit pill, the Qi Shan pill, the law comprehension pill, and so on that can raise the strength of a martial saint, quasi-martial honorable, and martial honorable. For example, the 5 lives profound door, the Ishar J-bone pill, and so on that can help a quasi-martial honorable to pass through the 3 tribulations. Furthermore, with my pill cultivation and technique, the success rate of refining these pills can basically reach above 80%. Having said that, Yu Haoran's gaze swept across the crowd before returning to the technique refining room. Seeing Yu Haoran enter the technique refining room and close the door, the crowd looked at each other in dismay. Although Yu Haoran didn't leave any threatening words just now, from his introduction of his alchemy ability and his use of the soaring dragon pill to lure Su Kaiying to kill Yang Shouzhuang, it was even more shocking than using words to threaten her. Let's go. Su Kaiying, who had just killed Yang Shouzhuang, instructed some of the Su family's powerhouses. Wait until we have gathered enough medicinal herbs to refine the pills and prepared treasures that can tempt you Zhongshu. Then we will ask him to refine the pills. Following Su Kaiying's reminder before leaving, the hundreds of powerhouses who had gathered at Yi Yuan Pavilion began to leave in an orderly manner. Seeing the crowd gradually leaving Yi Yuan Pavilion, Yu Haoran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Actually, according to his original intention, he did not want to use such a threatening method to force the crowd to leave. This was because using the pill as a threat could easily cause a certain amount of panic in a short period of time and cause everyone to be on their guard. It would also have a certain impact on his reputation. However, he did not expect that his ability as a peak alchemy grandmaster and his promise to refine the supreme Hua pill to intimidate the top powerhouses would cause such a huge commotion that even the second-grade inherited families were lured out. Fortunately, there was less than a day before the black market auction. As long as he could obtain that spiritual herb, he could start refining the pill to awaken Thaling. As long as Thaling woke up, he could leave Twin Bull Mountain and head to the last place for training. As long as he disappeared for a period of time, the commotion caused by the peak alchemy grandmaster and the supreme Hua pill would gradually die down. Then, the effect of using the pill to cause panic would gradually fade and be forgotten. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and closed his eyes. His consciousness entered the beast pet space and carefully checked on the unconscious black bear. Chapter 1100. Yi Yuan Pavilion, Practice Room. Yu Haoran, who had just immersed himself in the comprehension of Pill Dao, suddenly frowned slightly. At the same time, a violent, murderous aura gradually rose from his body, because just a moment ago, he sensed a group of people speeding towards Yi Yuan Pavilion. It seems that the shock of using the promise of alchemy to annihilate the Yang family was not strong enough. Then, don't blame me, Yu Haoran, for being merciless. Feeling that the group of people was getting closer and closer to Yi Yuan Pavilion, Yu Haoran stood up and gritted his teeth as he muttered to himself. Then, he pushed the door open and left the practice room. While activating the power of the witch ancestor, he directly took out the purple cudgel, ready to give the other party an unforgettable memory. However, when his body gradually began to grow, his divine thought unexpectedly saw a woman in a purple dress with a layer of white silk on her face, who was protected in the middle by the crowd. He could not help but be stunned for a moment. Then, he immediately dispersed the power of the witch ancestor and quickly put away the purple cudgel in his hand. Yu Haoran directly flew up and quickly met the group of people who were rushing towards him. Your subordinate pays his respects to the prince consort. Just as Yu Haoran rushed to the front of the group of people, dozens of Imperial guards wearing star steel armor immediately knelt down on one knee in the void and saluted. No need to be so polite. All of you can get up. Yu Haoran's gaze was fixed on the girl in the purple dress who walked out of the crowd and ordered lightly. Haoran! The girl in the purple dress who walked out of the crowd instantly rushed in front of Yu Haoran, then directly threw herself into his arms and called out tenderly. Ling Fei. Yu Haoran reached out and stroked Qin Ling Fei's beautiful hair as he also shouted emotionally. However, when he noticed that on the streets of Rydok City, many people suddenly appeared and pointed at him, he did not want to be seen as a monkey. He quickly patted Qin Ling Fei's delicate shoulder and motioned for her to land with him in Yuan Pavilion. You all go on with your duties. Qin Ling Fei, who had temporarily left Yu Haoran's embrace, regained the dignity of a princess and ordered as she watched the Imperial guards and palace maids land in Yuan Pavilion at the same time. This subordinate obeys. 30 Marshal Saint Realm Imperial guards immediately left the courtyard and guarded the entire Yuan Pavilion so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. This servant obeys. 8 palace maids dressed in warm red robes acknowledged the order. After that, the 4 palace maids entered the attic and began to clean and tidy up the room. The other 4 palace maids went straight to the pavilion. One laid out all kinds of spirit fruits, one boiled water and made tea, one burned an incense burner, and one played music. Looking at the 4 palace maids who were busy in the pavilion, Yu Haoran was stunned for a moment before shaking his head with a wry smile. He asked Qin Ling Fei, this should all be His Majesty's idea. Since the time they spent alone after the engagement, Qin Ling Fei was very familiar with his personality. She knew that he hated these kinds of luxurious things the most. Perhaps only Emperor Qin, who thought that he understood himself, could do such luxurious things that he didn't like at all. Sensing Yu Haoran's displeasure, Qin Ling Fei held his hand tightly and pleaded, Haoran, bear with it. Ling Fei, could it be that they are not the palace maids who usually serve you? Yu Haoran frowned slightly. As he continued to ask, he carefully observed the 4 palace maids in the pavilion. To his surprise, he discovered that not only were they all top-notch beauties, their cultivations were also at the early first-grade Marshal Saint realm. Haoran, these are the beauties that the Western Palace has carefully cultivated. They are used to serve His Majesty and reward the princes. Although her face was covered by a white silk veil, Qin Ling Fei's complaining tone was enough to show her dissatisfaction at the moment. However, her identity as a princess and her filial piety made it impossible for her to disobey Emperor Qin's orders. Ling Fei, His Majesty, doesn't want to use these 8 palace maids in exchange for a chance for me to refine the supreme Huazuan pill for him, does he? All of them were top beauties full of temptation. They could warm the bed and had the strength of the Marshal Saint realm. They could handle some things that were not too difficult. At the same time, Ling Fei, as a princess, couldn't order them to do something that they couldn't do. Yu Haoran quickly guessed Emperor Qin's real intention. To be able to disregard Qin Ling Fei's feelings and forcibly arrange 8 outstanding beauties. This idea must have come from the Western Palace's concubine. It seemed that he had taken advantage of Emperor Qin's high regard and abolished Imperial concubine Ji, who could ascend to the Eastern Palace, to give Shiguan a chance to fight for the throne of the Eastern Palace. However, she seemed to have forgotten that since he could abolish the favored Imperial concubine Ji, he could also abolish her, the Western Palace's concubine. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran looked straight into Qin Ling Fei's beautiful eyes and asked, Ling Fei, do you have a life-saving treasure condensed by His Majesty's divine sense? Yes. Nodding, Qin Lingfei took out a blue bracelet from her wrist that was similar to a storage space. "Give it to me." Yu Haoran stretched out his hand and ordered Qin Lingfei. Regarding this, how could Qin Lingfei refuse? He reached out and took the blue bracelet from Qin Lingfei, then held her hand and entered the pavilion. Placing the blue bracelet on the stone table, Yu Haoran used the qi concentrating technique of Fushi's 8 trigrams diagram and directly pulled out the trace of divine sense that Emperor Qin had left in the blue bracelet. Then, gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in Yuan Pavilion, helped him condense a body. "Prince Consort, what kind of trick is this?" Suddenly being forcibly pulled out of the bracelet not only awakened the trace of divine sense remaining in the bracelet, but also alarmed Emperor Qin, who was far away in Xianying City. Seeing his body suddenly appear, Emperor Qin's divine sense was forcibly pulled out of the bracelet and asked with a shocked expression, "It's just a little trick of an arcane master." Waving his hand, Yu Haoran casually replied. While pulling Qin Lingfei to sit on the stone chair, he stretched out his hand and pointed at the 4 palace maids in the pavilion. "His Majesty, what's going on?" Because the divine sense in the bracelet was reserved in advance, the trace of divine sense in the bracelet did not know what was going on. However, as a trace of divine sense separated from a third tribulation quasi-emperor expert, it could still be controlled by the main body tens of thousands of kilometers away. After closing its eyes and connecting with the main body used its powerful strength to directly control the body condensed from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Then, Emperor Qin sat on another stone chair, intending to explain what was going on with these palace maids. However, Yu Haoran directly interrupted his explanation, then put forward his own request. "Answer my question, then agree to one of my requests. If you can gather the 108 herbs to refine the supreme Hua Shao pill, I promise to refine the supreme Hua Shao pill for you." "Please speak, Prince Consort." Following the impact of Yu Haoran's breakthrough to the peak of the Grandmaster realm, as well as the commotion caused by his ability to refine the supreme Hua Shao pill. At this moment, Yu Haoran's status and influence on the continent was not inferior to his own. Chapter 1101. Yuan Pavilion. Was it His Majesty's idea to arrange for these 8 palace maids? Or was it the idea of that woman from Shi Palace? Yu Haoran asked with a dark expression as he pointed at the 4 uneasy palace maids in the pavilion. It was Shi Palace Jing Fei's idea, but it was also approved by Zhen. Emperor Qin answered truthfully as he raised his head to look at the 4 nervous palace maids. "His Majesty, did you not consider Ling Fei's feelings when you agreed to Jing Fei's idea?" Yu Haoran's tone gradually became more serious as he questioned. Qin Lingfei, who felt a trace of sweetness in her heart, gripped his right hand even tighter. "Princess Consort, I'm only considering the inconvenience of being alone on Twin Ox Mountain. I've arranged for a few palace maids to take care of your daily life. That way, you'll have more time to cultivate in peace and raise your cultivation in pills." Feeling the dissatisfaction in Yu Haoran's questioning tone, Emperor Qin frowned as he explained the true reason for his actions. "His Majesty, is your idea really so simple?" Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. "Fuma, does Zhen need to lie to you?" Emperor Qin also asked in displeasure. "Then His Majesty, please take a closer look at these 4 palace maids." Emperor Qin's displeasure caused Yu Haoran to suddenly realize that he seemed to have misunderstood him. Maybe when he had listened to the suggestion of that woman from Shi Palace, he had only considered the inconvenience of living alone and had not considered the deeper reasons. Maybe all of this had been arranged by that woman from Shi Palace. Hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Emperor Qin finally carefully observed the 4 restless palace maids. Anger gradually appeared in his eyes. Curved eyebrows, almond-shaped cheeks, skin of ice, and bones of jade. Seeing the 4 alluring palace maids standing in the pavilion, Emperor Qin knew that he had been tricked by the woman he trusted. It was true that she had arranged 8 palace maids to take care of Yu Haoran, but her real intention was to warm his bed. After all, Yu Haoran was a person who valued friendship and loyalty. If he really had that kind of relationship with one of them, or with a few of them, he would definitely regard them as his women. Then, Jing Fei, who had won the support of Yu Haoran, could easily sit on the throne of the Eastern Palace. Because everyone in the world knew how much he valued Yu Haoran. Everyone knew that Yu Haoran could influence some of his thoughts and suggestions. Fuma, Zhen will immediately send down a decree for them to immediately leave Yuan Pavilion and roll back to Jing Fei's place in Shi Palace. Retracting his gaze from the palace maids, Emperor Qin said with a solemn expression, "Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty." The change in Emperor Qin's expression, as well as the immediate arrangements he made Yu Haoran feel very satisfied. At the same time, he also chose to forgive him from the bottom of his heart. "Haoran, tell Zhen the truth. Are you really able to?" Seeing Yu Haoran's expression gradually soften, Emperor Qin inwardly sighed in relief. Then, slightly nervous, he wanted to verify if he really had the confidence to refine the third-level, first-grade Huazun Dan like he had promised Tao Qingshui of the Tao family. But before he could finish speaking, the 4 palace maids standing on one side of the pavilion suddenly took out 4 daggers that gleamed with cold light and emitted a faint stench. Then, they directly launched a sneak attack at Yu Haoran's vital points. "Haoran, be careful!" Because Qin Lingfei was sitting next to Yu Haoran, she immediately discovered the sneak attack of the 4 palace maids. Even though she really wanted to block the sneak attack for him, it was too close. She could only warn him and watch as the 4 daggers stabbed into the 4 vitals of Yu Haoran. "You deserve to die." Seeing the 4 daggers stabbed into Yu Haoran's vitals, an extremely cold flame quickly rose from her body. Looking at the 4 palace maids who were quickly retreating and planning to escape, Qin Lingfei growled with a frosty face. Then, she turned into a flame and rushed forward. Damn it! Emperor Qin was also furious. In an instant, he appeared in front of the 4 palace maids. Using his terrifying momentum, he firmly suppressed the 4 palace maids who wanted to escape. Qin Lingfei was his beloved woman, and Emperor Qin was his trusted elder. Yu Haoran had never thought that he would encounter such a close sneak attack in such a situation. This caused him to be unprepared for any defense in advance. Faced with the sneak attack of 4 first-grade martial saints at close range, he could neither dodge nor mobilize Zhong Rudong in his sea of consciousness, nor activate the defensive ability of the ancestral witch's body in time. He could only watch as the 4 daggers stabbed into his vital points. After the 4 daggers stabbed into his vitals, while Qin Lingfei and Emperor Qin were chasing after the 4 palace maids, Yu Haoran immediately checked the origin of the poison smeared on the daggers. Dechira. The poison ranked 97th on the list of poisons in the Tianxin continent. It had the power to kill once it touched blood. Fortunately, his profound experience in the Tao of poison allowed him to circulate his origin energy and soul force at the first possible moment to firmly suppress the spread of the poison. His mind immediately took out a detoxification pill from his storage ring and temporarily weakened the poison's power. At the same time, the second clone in his sea of consciousness immediately performed a sealing technique to seal the Dechira poison in the vitals. Then, he placed 9 medicinal herbs with different poisons on the stone table. He quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers and used the Nihility pill condensation technique to successfully refine 9 pills that could cure the Dechira poison in less than 2 minutes. After taking a detoxification pill to remove the Devil Snare's poison, Yu Haoran immediately took a top-notch healing pill to treat his 4 vital injuries. Fortunately, the 4 palace maids were too confident in the power of the Dechira poison, and the sneak attack on his vitals was not fatal. Under the treatment of the top-notch healing pill, Yu Haoran quickly recovered to his original state. Looking at the 4 palace maids who had been directly captured by Emperor Qin, and the 4 palace maids who had been captured by the 8th and 9th grade martial sages under Emperor Qin's orders, Qin Lingfei was shocked. "Speak, who sent you here?" Emperor Qin's face was gloomy as he asked the palace maid who was at the peak of the first-grade martial sage. She was obviously the leader of the 8 palace maids. Glancing coldly at Emperor Qin, the palace maid with the highest cultivation suddenly turned black, and then she fell to the ground and died. Then, the other 7 palace maids were poisoned to death almost at the same time. Damn it! After a careful examination, Emperor Qin found that the poison they had used to kill themselves was the same as the one used to attack Yu Haoran. They were all datura poisons. The datura poison not only took away their vitality, but also their consciousness, and they lost the hope of using the soul-searching technique to find the mastermind. Yu Haoran reached out and patted Qin Lingfei, whose eyes were full of tears, to show that he was fine. He looked up at Emperor Qin and asked, "Your Majesty, what is the background of the Western Palace Jingfei?" The Western Palace Jingfei's surname is Liu, and she comes from the Liu family of Feng City. Chapter 1102. Yiyuan Pavilion. The Liu family. After hearing Jing Fei's origins, Yu Haoran immediately thought of Liu Gan, the head of the Blue Dragon Hall of the Liu family that he had killed, and the bald man who was also from the Liu family. Also, through the bald man, he thought of the Empress Dowager, Zi Xian, whom he had offended several times. However, Jing Fei had arranged for 8 palace maids to use the poison of the devil's snare to attack him. Whether it was her own idea or Zi Xian's orders behind the scenes, he still needed to investigate further. If it was Jing Fei's own idea, and she wanted to avenge Liu Gan and the bald man, then whether it was asking Emperor Qin to cripple her or immediately returning to the imperial palace in Xianyang City to kill her, it wasn't too troublesome. But if the mastermind was Zi Xian, then things were a little troublesome. First, he wasn't her opponent at the moment, and second, there was Emperor Qin in the middle. Emperor, are Jing Fei and the Empress Dowager directly related by blood? Are they very close? Yu Haoran looked straight into Emperor Qin's eyes as he asked, "Fuma, this matter has nothing to do with the Empress Dowager." Hearing Yu Haoran ask about the relationship between the Empress Dowager and Jing Fei, Emperor Qin knew that his suspect already involved the Empress Dowager and immediately exonerated her. In response, Yu Haoran just looked at Emperor Qin with a cold smile, watching how he justified the woman's words. Fuma, as early as 1.5 months ago, the Empress Dowager had already left the imperial palace to find that person to ask for something back. Looking at the cold smile on Yu Haoran's face, Emperor Qin thought for a while and finally responded helplessly. And it was Zhen who personally asked her to go. Looking at Emperor Qin with a slight frown, Yu Haoran's eyes showed a trace of seriousness. Back then, during the bloody battle in the imperial clan court, he had personally witnessed how deeply the Qin emperor hated the special relationship between Qin Bojun and Zi Xuan. If it wasn't for Zi Xian's request to let Qin Bojun live at the cost of sealing her own harem, Qin Bojun would have killed him himself. The fact that Emperor Qin had personally begged Zi Xuan to come out and look for Qin Bojun meant that the item that Qin Bojun had taken away was very important. It was so important that Qin Bojun could let go of the disgust in his heart. This instantly aroused Yu Haoran's strong interest. "Your Majesty, what kind of precious treasure did Qin Bojun take away?" "A key that can open the secret realm that has been passed down for thousands of years in my Emperor Qin kingdom." In this regard, Emperor Qin did not hide anything. This was because before the secret realm officially opened, apart from some elite disciples who had originally entered the secret realm to train, Yu Haoran and Tung Yunjie were also on the invitation list. This was also the main reason why he had reminded Yu Haoran to return to Xianyang City before the Hidden Dragon rankings began when they parted ways in the Hengduan Mountains. Nodding, Yu Haoran understood why Emperor Qin could temporarily let go of the disgust in his heart for Qin Bojun. At the same time, he also believed that Zi Xian, who had already left Xianyang City, could not be the mastermind behind the assassination. In that case, the entire process of the assassination was very simple. Consort Jing from the Liu family had planned this method of revenge on her own in order to avenge her family. The only thing that Yu Haoran still had doubts in his heart was that even if the assassination was successful in the end, would Jing Fei be able to escape the bloody revenge of the furious Emperor Qin and Ling Fei? However, he did not continue to pursue this matter. He also did not want to implicate more people because of Jing Fei, so as to avoid affecting Emperor Qin's plan of unifying the southern region in a short period of time. Your Majesty, as a supreme Hua pill that can assist in breaking through to the martial venerable realm with a 50% chance of success, it involves a deeper understanding of the power of laws. After suppressing the doubts in his heart, Yu Haoran began to explain the question that Emperor Qin had not asked earlier. Therefore, with my own cultivation and alchemy skills, even if I can refine a third-rank, first-grade Supreme Hua pill, the success rate is less than 30%. In the beginning, he only had a 10% success rate because his cultivation had just broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. He did not know much about the power of laws that needed to be integrated into the process of refining the Supreme Hua pill. After this period of familiarization and understanding, he already knew how to better integrate the power of laws, and the success rate of refining the pill naturally increased. If he was given a period of time to continue using the nothingness pill condensation technique to increase his alchemy skills, the success rate of refining the Supreme Hua pill could reach about 50%. Hearing the dissatisfaction in Yu Haoran's tone, Emperor Qin smiled bitterly and advised him, "My husband, a 30% success rate is already very high. It far surpasses those alchemy grandmasters who are at the peak of the alchemy realm. Your Majesty, I, Yu Haoran, pursue perfection in the alchemy realm. Either I give up my alchemy cultivation, or I have to achieve a 100% success rate," Yu Haoran said confidently. Looking at Yu Haoran, who was exuding a strong sense of confidence and thinking about the requirements that he had for himself, Emperor Qin, who was deeply moved, slowly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the worry and anticipation in Emperor Qin's eyes were replaced by determination. "My husband, I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be returning to Xianyang City for the time being." Your Majesty, with your potential and accumulation, 50% to 60% of the southern region's fate will be enough to help you break through to the martial venerable realm. Seeing that Emperor Qin's divine thought was about to leave his body, Yu Haoran hurriedly stood up and left the stone chair, reminding him with a solemn expression. "Therefore, whether it's the Guliang clan and the Ren clan of the inheritance families, or the Hungduan Mountains fate that I've intercepted, you don't have to take it to heart at all, and you don't have to deliberately gather the fate of these three places." "I understand." Nodding to indicate that he understood, Emperor Qin was about to leave his body with his divine thought when he suddenly thought of an important matter. So he quickly reminded him, "My husband, Emperor Qin's kingdom has a very special relationship with the Heavenly Martial Sect. So some time ago, I invited Tung Yunjie from the Heavenly Martial Sect to be my guest. The main reason is that I hope that Tung Yunjie can participate in the trial of the secret realm to further increase his strength. However, when Tung Yunjie found out that not only did you successfully break through to the Pill Dao Grandmaster realm, but you're also able to refine the supreme Hua Xiao pill of the third level, he rushed back to the Heavenly Martial Sect. Therefore, I suspect that Tung Yunjie might know the whereabouts of the nine-tailed dragon sunflower. With the Heavenly Martial Sect's hidden strength, they can easily kill the nine-headed snake and obtain the nine-tailed dragon sunflower, the main ingredient needed to refine the supreme Hua Xiao pill. Therefore, I hope that you'll be prepared to refine the supreme Hua Xiao pill for the Heavenly Martial Sect in advance. Your Majesty, please wait for a moment." Chapter 1103. Yuan Pavilion. After hearing Yu Haoran urging him to stay, Emperor Qin immediately stopped his divine thought from leaving his body. "Your Majesty, when did senior brother Yunjie reach Xianyang City?" Yu Haoran asked solemnly. 21 days ago, as Emperor Qin had personally received Tung Yunjie. He did not need to recall and directly replied. It had been almost 2 months since they parted in front of the sword tower. In that case, Tung Yunjie must have gone to Death Valley outside Lonling City in the past month. This was because there happened to be a rank 2, rank 1 nine-tailed dragon sunflower in the inner valley of Death Valley. Your Majesty, use your means to immediately inform the higher-ups of the Heavenly Martial Sect and tell them not to fight for the nine-tailed dragon sunflower. Yu Haoran immediately reminded him when he thought of the dangers in the inner valley of Death Valley. Why? Emperor Qin asked in confusion. Because the place where the nine-tailed dragon sunflower grows is too dangerous. Once you enter, you will definitely die, Yu Haoran explained with a solemn expression. Hearing that Yu Haoran was worried about the danger of the Heavenly Martial Sect's powerhouses fighting for the nine-tailed dragon sunflower, Emperor Qin smiled and comforted him. Don't worry, Prince Consort. The Heavenly Martial Sect's foundation is so deep that it is far beyond your imagination. Even if there are 3 or 5 nine-tailed dragons, the Heavenly Martial Sect's powerhouses can easily kill them, let alone a rank 3 quasi-martial honorable. Your Majesty, the nine-tailed dragon's sunflower grows in the inner valley of Death Valley outside Lonling City. Initially, he did not want to reveal the true location of the nine-tailed dragon sunflower to prevent Emperor Qin from being greedy and destroying his firm Taoist heart. However, since he could not raise Emperor Qin's guard with just a vague reminder, Yu Haoran could only take the risk of revealing the existence of Death Valley. Fortunately, Emperor Qin did not reveal any greed in his eyes, which made him feel more at ease. If it's the inner valley of Death Valley, then there won't be a problem. With the strength of that expert from the Heavenly Martial Sect, he can easily kill his way in and out. Shaking his head, Emperor Qin signaled Yu Haoran not to make a fuss. After reminding him in a relaxed tone, he continued to separate his divine consciousness from his body. Your Majesty, what if there's a strange beast in the inner valley of Death Valley that can easily kill a martial saint? Moreover, this strange beast has a good relationship with the nine-tailed snake? Yu Haoran sneered. Emperor Qin asked with a grave expression as his divine sense, which had completely left his body, returned to his body in an instant. Prince Consort, are you sure that the inner valley of Death Valley has a strange beast that can easily kill a peerless martial venerable? I'm very sure, Yu Haoran confirmed with a nod, because I once saw this strange beast in the inner valley of Death Valley. Prince Consort, what kind of strange beast is this? Emperor Qin immediately asked nervously. This is a direct descendant of the long-armed divine ape, one of the 4 great ancient spiritual monkeys. Not only is its strength terrifying, but also has a violent personality and admires killing. Yu Haoran said without hiding anything. Back then, when he saw the long-armed divine ape in the inner valley of Death Valley, he was limited by his own strength and experience. He was unable to determine the true strength of the long-armed divine ape. He only felt that it was very powerful. Now, after his cultivation had broken through to the martial saint realm and comprehended the law of life and death, Yu Haoran recalled the actions of the long-armed divine ape when it had killed the rank 4 sacred realm giant python. He knew that the true grade of the long-armed divine ape was not at the peak of the rank 9 sacred realm, nor was it at the quasi-venerable realm. It was very likely that it was a venerable realm strange beast that had sealed its strength. The 4 great ancient spiritual monkeys were terrifying existences that even the 9 great divine beast kings could not suppress. Then, as one of the 4 great ancient spiritual monkeys and a direct descendant of the long-armed divine ape, the long-armed divine ape would definitely be able to display strength that far surpassed its own grade. Therefore, the words that he had used to warn Emperor Qin were definitely not just words to scare him. Emperor Qin frowned slightly. Obviously, he did not know the origins of the 4 great ancient spiritual monkeys. Therefore, he did not know how terrifying the long-armed divine ape was. Therefore, his originally nervous expression gradually relaxed, and a relaxed smile appeared on his face again. Your Majesty, Senior Brother Yunjie is a good person, and the Heavenly Martial Sect has a very special relationship with Your Majesty. I don't want to see the heavenly martial sect suffer a serious loss of strength because of the fight for the nine-tailed dragon sunflower. In the end, it will fall to the level of a top sect. Seeing the relaxed smile on Emperor Qin's face, it was obvious that he did not believe his evaluation of the long-armed divine ape's strength. Yu Haoran could only use emotional and logical means to move Emperor Qin. However, the final result made him shake his head in disappointment. Emperor's son-in-law, even if the long-armed divine ape strength is as terrifying as you described, the heavenly martial sect will still have a way to deal with it. Therefore, you can rest assured. Facing Emperor Qin, who was completely unaware of the danger, Yu Haoran could only shrug his shoulders and did not continue to persuade him. This was because he knew very well that even Emperor Qin, who had little to do with him, did not believe in the terror of the long-armed divine ape, let alone the heavenly martial sect, which had an almighty expert who was about to surpass Emperor Wu's realm. If he continued to persuade him, it would be a waste of his breath. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran indicated that Emperor Qin could leave with his divine sense. After Emperor Qin's divine sense left, he waved his hand at the body that he had condensed using the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. His body instantly turned into countless wisps of spiritual qi of heaven and earth and dissipated into the wind pavilion. Haoran, is that long-armed divine ape strength really that terrifying? Looking at Yu Haoran, who was sitting beside her, Qin Lingfei asked with some worry. After encountering that long-armed divine ape, an almighty expert of the martial honorable realm would definitely die. Even an almighty expert who was about to surpass Emperor Wu's realm would find it difficult to escape unscathed. Although the spiritual fruits on the stone table in front of him were very clean and did not contain any poison, when he thought of the four palace maids who had secretly attacked him, he still waved his hand and put away the spiritual fruits with some disgust. Then he sighed and said, Haoran, not only do I know where the heavenly martial sect mountain gate is, I also know a few elders and hall masters. Why don't we personally make a trip to the heavenly martial sect? Unlike Emperor Qin's arrogant self-confidence, Qin Lingfei, who understood Yu Haoran's character very well, knew that he would never lie. Since he said that the long-armed divine ape's strength was very strong, then the long-armed divine ape must have the means to kill an almighty expert of the martial honorable realm and severely injure an almighty expert who was about to surpass Emperor Wu. Therefore, Qin Lingfei, who was also worried about the heavenly martial sect, could not help but ask, Lingfei, I have already fulfilled my duty. Whether the heavenly martial sect's experts live or die, are injured or disabled, it has nothing to do with me, Yu Haoran. Yu Haoran shook his head and flatly refused. Not to mention that the black market auction would officially begin tomorrow afternoon, he needed to bid for the last medicinal ingredient that could be used to refine pills. There was no way he could leave Twin Oxen Mountain. Even if he had nothing to do and was sleeping in, he would definitely not use his hot face to stick to the heavenly martial sect's cold ass. Moreover, everything was just his own speculation. Chapter 1104 Yiyuan Pavilion. Faced with Yu Haoran's rejection, Qin Lingfei could only sigh softly and did not continue to insist. From her point of view, the life and death of the experts of the heavenly martial sect was more important than the feelings of the man she loved. Lingfei, congratulations on successfully comprehending the special power of law and successfully breaking through to the martial saint realm. You are now one of the experts of the profound sky continent. Unwilling to continue on the topic of the heavenly martial sect, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at Qin Lingfei. His eyes were filled with joy as he changed the topic. When the four palace maids had used their daggers to attack his vitals, although he had focused all his energy on defending against the devil's snare's poison, the powerful aura that Qin Lingfei had emitted in her rage and the power of law that she had used when chasing after the palace maids had allowed him to clearly sense Qin Lingfei's true cultivation and strength. An early second-grade martial saint, possessing strength that did not lose to an early fourth-grade martial saint. It's all thanks to the profound soul fire and the top-notch pills that you gave me. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for me to successfully break through to the Martial Saint realm before the Star of the Hidden Dragon rankings. Hearing Yu Haoran mention her advancement in cultivation, Qin Lingfei immediately threw her worries about the heavenly martial sect to the back of her mind. Her eyes were filled with tenderness as she spoke. "My Lord Prince Consort, thank you," Yu Haoran said gently as he reached out to stroke Qin Lingfei's hair. "Silly girl, I, Yu Haoran, am yours, not to mention the heavenly flame and pills. Saying thank you is too polite." Sweetness instantly surged from his heart as Qin Lingfei threw herself into his embrace. Then, the two of them began to enjoy a rare moment of tenderness together. The black market, as its name implied, was a market that could not be exposed to the light of day, as the Twin Bull Mountain was not under the control of any power and was also a transit point between the central and southern regions, regardless of whether it was adventurers who liked to travel around, rogue cultivators who traveled alone, or those who were frustrated to escape from their enemies or pursuers. Most of them lived in seclusion in the Twin Bull City of the Twin Bull Mountain. Therefore, with all sorts of people mixed together, the black market on Twin Oxen Mountain became more and more prosperous. As the main event of the black market, not only did the auction that was held every half a year gather most of the peak experts in Twin Oxen Mountains, but it also attracted experts from the 7 peak sects and many clans of legacies to participate. The experts who came to participate in the auction would take out top-notch treasures that they did not need for the time being to exchange for the treasures that they needed. Therefore, every time there was an auction in the black market, there would always be some amazing treasures. Left Ox City, on a shabby street in the southern corner of the city, Qin Lingfei couldn't help but widen her eyes in disbelief as she watched one expert after another enter a courtyard that was even more dilapidated than the streets. Some were in a rush, some were leisurely, some were walking in groups, and some were chatting cheerfully with each other as they entered a courtyard that was even more dilapidated than the streets. "Haoran, is this the black market auction you mentioned?" "Lingfei, there's no need to make a fuss. There's another world in the courtyard." Yu Haoran grabbed Qin Lingfei's slim waist and led her into the dilapidated courtyard as he spoke mysteriously. "Stop. Perhaps it was because Yu Haoran was too young, or perhaps it was because Qin Lingfei was too stunning without her veil covering her face, but when they reached the entrance of the courtyard, they were stopped by the young expert in charge of maintaining the black market auction. "Please show me your invitation card." The young expert extended his hand. The smile on Yu Haoran's face instantly vanished as he looked coldly at the young man and scolded him. "You're blind. Do you know who I am?" Twin Oxen Mountain was not ruled by any faction, and the black market auction was held at a fixed place and at a fixed time. However, the guests who could participate in the auction were either powerful rogue cultivators or big shots from top masters or inherited families. They needed someone to guide them and maintain the normal operation of the entire auction. Therefore, it was unknown when the black market auction started, but the experts of the 3 major chambers of commerce took turns to be responsible for it. And this black market auction happened to be maintained by the Heavenly Earth Chamber of Commerce. With his deep friendship with the Heavenly Earth Chamber of Commerce, he was actually blocked by his friend's subordinates today. No matter what the other party's final thoughts were, Yu Haoran felt extremely angry. Especially when there was a beautiful woman by his side, it made his heart surge with a strong, murderous intent. No matter who you are, the black market auction has its own rules. Ignoring Yu Haoran's threat, the young expert at the peak of the 9th level Martial King said with an equally cold expression, "Therefore, if you want to enter the black market auction, you must show your invitation card." "Why don't those people show their invitation cards?" Seeing that the young man ignored the experts passing by, Qin Lingfei questioned very discontentedly, because the actions of the young expert in front of her were either directed at her or Yu Haoran. Those seniors have extraordinary temperaments. At a glance, I can tell that they are either top experts or distinguished guests from top factions. In the face of Qin Lingfei's questioning, the young expert's attitude was much gentler, but there was still a trace of contempt in his reply. And what about you? The young expert smiled and shook his head without saying anything. Good, very good, very good. In the face of the young man's humiliating contempt, Yu Haoran was so angry that he laughed and said good 3 times in a row. Then, a strong murderous intent suppressed the young expert, and he said with a hideous smile, Boy, I've lived in Twin Oxen Mountain for several months. Whether it was opening the sword gauntlet or successfully breaking through the realm of alchemy grandmaster, it attracted countless people's attention. Since you are a waiter of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, then you should know my relationship with your Chamber of Commerce. There is no reason for you not to know me, Yu Haoran. Taking a step forward, the extremely strong murderous intent forced the young expert to kneel on the ground. Reluctantly raising his head, the young expert stared at Yu Haoran with eyes full of hatred. Ignoring the hatred in the young expert's eyes, Yu Haoran continued to ask, You didn't stop other people from entering the auction, but you stopped me, Yu Haoran, which is enough to show that you did it deliberately. You and I don't know each other, and we have never met. There can be no hatred between us, so there must be someone behind the scenes instructing you. Taking another step forward, Yu Haoran asked sternly, Tell me, who instructed you? A trace of panic flashed in the eyes full of hatred. The young expert quickly lowered his head and dared not face Yu Haoran directly. Do you think I don't dare to kill you? Yu Haoran threatened with a murderous look, with a natal sword in his hand directly on the young expert's neck. Chapter 1105. In front of the dilapidated courtyard. After hearing Yu Haoran's murderous threat, the young expert immediately raised his head and looked directly at him. The hatred and panic in his eyes were immediately replaced by contempt, and his tone was full of provocation. Do you dare? Hee hee. In the face of the young expert's contemptuous provocation, Yu Haoran sneered twice. The life sword in his hand suddenly exerted force, and a head spattered with blood rolled to the ground. His widened eyes were still filled with disdain and provocation. Young man, you are in trouble. A linen-clothed old man who had just planned to enter the dilapidated courtyard kindly reminded him. This time, the one in charge of maintaining the black market auction is still the 6th elder of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, Lei Hejuan, who is known as the soul-piercing hand. According to old Lei's character, if you dare to kill the people of the Chamber of Commerce on the street, he will definitely take revenge in front of everyone. It's him. After hearing the linen-clothed old man's reminder, a light flashed in his mind, and Yu Haoran finally knew why the young expert deliberately targeted him. It turned out that the person behind the scenes was Lei Hejuan. At that time, when Jianyu of the Sky Sword sect turned hostile and left Yuan Pavilion, Shun Jinwen had explained to him face-to-face that the reason why Jianyu and others appeared in front of Yuan Pavilion had the most direct relationship with the 6th elder Lei Hejuan. If Lei Hejuan deliberately targeted him just because of the accommodation, then he would not blame him for using his amazing alchemy cultivation to take revenge on the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. I know what to do. After cupping his fist and thanking the gray-clothed old man, Yu Haoran reached out to hold Qin Ling Fei's jade-like hand and stepped into the seemingly dilapidated courtyard. In fact, there was another world inside. Qin Ling Fei, who was still worried about being retaliated by Lei Hejuan, couldn't help but be stunned when she saw more than 20 cloud chairs floating in the air in front of her. Then, she hurriedly asked, Haoran, what's going on? Ling Fei, I wonder if you've heard of the heaven-tier martial skill of the Cloud Ascension Stairs. Yu Haoran asked with a smile as he held on a Qin Ling Fei's jade-like hand and walked towards the cloud chair. I've heard of it. Qin Ling Fei nodded. Yu Haoran explained as he pointed at the 28 cloud chairs arranged in an orderly manner in front of him. This is a cloud chair condensed by a senior skilled in formations. He used the Cloud Ascension Ladder's heaven-ranked martial technique and merged it with the 28 Lunar Mansions formation. It is both a symbol of status and a manifestation of strength. Qin Ling Fei nodded, indicating that she understood. In addition to the 28 cloud chairs floating in the air, There were also over 100 specially made red sandalwood chairs placed in the courtyard for the ordinary experts to use. At this time, whether it was the red sandalwood chairs or the 28 cloud chairs, they were all filled with guests who were attending the black market auction. He raised his head and searched through the 28 cloud chairs, then directly held on a Qin Ling Fei's slender waist and flew towards the cloud chair that represented the Willow Earth Deer constellation. Willow Earth Deer, according to the ranking of the 28 lunar mansions, belonged to the third position of the southern region's 7 lunar mansions. And this position was also reserved for him in advance by Shun Jinwen. The 28 lunar mansions were divided into 4 regions, 7 lunar mansions, respectively representing the eastern region's blue dragons, 7 lunar mansions, the northern region's black tortoises, 7 lunar mansions, the western region's white tigers, 7 lunar mansions, and the southern region's vermilion birds, 7 lunar mansions. According to the agreement formed by the black market auction, or rather, the unspoken rules, the experts from the central region could occupy 7 of the 28 constellations' cloud chairs in every auction. There were the 4 cloud chairs that were ranked first in the east, south, west, and north regions, and a second cloud chair that was ranked second in the north, west, and south regions. Because the central region's strength was the strongest, they should occupy more and better cloud chairs. And as the eastern region's strength was second only to the central region, they could keep 1 more cloud chair. This was the difference between the strong and the weak, and also represented that the Tianxian continent had always followed the law of the jungle. Just as Yuhaoran was about to step on the Willow Earth Deer's cloud chair, 2 lightning-like figures, one from the left and one from the right, sneak attacked his vital points on both sides. Yuhaoran already knew that someone would not let him sit on the cloud chair steadily. The ancestral witch's body activated in advance, and the wishful bell integrated into his body's defense allowed him to ignore the attacks from both sides. After using his elemental energy to send Qin Ling Fei into the Willow Earth Deer's cloud chair in advance, a purple rod instantly appeared in his hand. Puff! Although the double defense of the ancestral witch's body and the wishful bell could block the sneak attacks from both sides, the violent shock formed by the powerful force still made him spit out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, the 2 people who attacked him were only at the peak of the 9th grade martial saint. Therefore, this kind of vibrating power was not serious to him, and it would not affect his strength, overturning rivers and seas. Ignoring the remaining blood at the corner of his mouth, Yuhaoran, who was flying high in the sky, used 90% of his elemental energy, 90% of his soul power, and 80% of his ancestral witch's physical strength to directly perform the second move of the Monkey Emperor's Rod inheritance. The terrifying attack formed by the purple rod directly enveloped the 2 experts at the peak of the 9th grade martial saint who attacked him just now. Using nearly 90% of his strength to perform the overturning rivers and seas, the power of the purple rod attack had already reached the strength of a 3rd tribulation quasi-martial saint. How could 2 sneak attackers of the 9th grade martial saint realm withstand such a terrifying attack? However, facing the purple rod that was rapidly approaching them, the 2 experts at the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm were not afraid at all. They just sneered at the purple rod that was getting closer and closer. When the purple cudgel was less than 10 meters away from the 2 martial saints, the terrifying power of the purple cudgel had already begun to tear apart the clothes of the 2 martial saints. 2 more figures instantly appeared in midair. One of the experts at the peak of the 2nd tribulation quasi-martial saint realm directly used his natal sword and performed a high-grade earth sword technique. The other expert at the 3rd tribulation quasi-martial saint realm threw out a heavy punch. The sharp sword chi and the heavy punch that contained terrifying power collided with the purple rod at the same time. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening roar, Yuhaoran was directly bounced back into the sky by the strong rebounding force. The 2 experts at the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm were unable to withstand the energy waves formed by the rod, sword chi, and fist. They directly fell to the hard ground with heavy injuries. The expert at the peak of the 2nd tribulation quasi-martial saint realm directly spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood, and his face instantly became as pale as paper. Even the strongest expert at the Third Tribulation quasi-martial saint realm, although he was not severely injured, his aura became chaotic. Chapter 1106. In the auction house of the black market, 2 opponents at the peak of the 9th level martial sage were not worthy of him using the body of ancestral wizard and the stick technique inherited by the monkey emperor. But at the moment of the attack, the cloud chair representing Sun Horse of Star from the southern region and the cloud chair representing Golden Bull Ox from the northern region respectively flashed a trace of killing intent that made him feel a fatal threat. Therefore, when he used the overwhelming stick technique just now, in addition to using the strength of the body of Ancestral Wizard, 90% of the original energy and soul power, he also secretly used the secret method of overdrawing the bloodline of Ancestral Wizard. What he really wanted to deal with was the opponents in the 2 cloud chairs who could bring him fatal danger. It was also because he used the secret method of the bloodline of Ancestral Wizard in advance that the confrontation just now only made the chi and blood in his body a little turbulent, and he did not really suffer a serious injury. 6th Elder, what are you doing? By using the formation of the 28 constellations and the cloud chair formed by the heaven-level martial skill of the cloud climbing ladder, it could form an independent space that could not be seen by naked eyes and divine thoughts. In this way, it could not only avoid being watched by the auction guests below, but also do some unspeakable means. On the cloud chair that represented the Taurus Ox constellation in the northern region, Shun Jinwen clenched his fists tightly. His breathing gradually became heavier as he looked at the dignified middle-aged expert who was about 40 years old sitting on the cloud chair and questioned. Shun Jinwen, you are just the person in charge of Small Branch. You are not qualified to question me. Turning his head and glancing at Shun Jinwen behind him, the 6th Elder from the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce scolded him in a serious tone. 6th Elder, you are right. I am not qualified to question your order, but as a senior of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, I have to say a few words in consideration of the development of the Chamber of Commerce. In the face of the scolding of the 6th Elder, he lay Jun, Shun Jinwen retorted without fear. 6th Elder, with the deep friendship between the 1st Elder and Miss Yunxiang, the business of our Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce has successfully seized nearly half of the market share in the southern region in just a few months. Moreover, with the amazing talent of Prince Consort in alchemy, our Chamber of Commerce's alchemy business in the whole Tianxin continent has at least increased by nearly 3% compared with the past. Glancing at Yu Haoran, who was holding the purple cudgel tightly and emitting a strong evil spirit gradually, Shun Jinwen felt both angry and worried and continued to question him. For a noble person like Prince Consort Ma, our Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce desperately protects him. Why did you arrange for Bingwen and Elder Chun to sneak attack him? If you do this, aren't you forcing Prince Consort to be an enemy of our Heavenly World? Have you obtained the approval of the 3 guild leaders and the elders before doing this? Bang bang. Lei Hejuan abruptly slapped the armrest of his chair and stood up. He looked at Shun Jinwen, and a trace of murderous intent slowly rose from his body as he threatened. Shun Jinwen, do you want to die? 6th Elder, although my status is not as high as yours and my power is not as great as yours, according to the rules of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, you are not qualified to punish me. Facing the threat of the 6th Elder, Shun Jinwen retorted without fear. Then, he reached out and tore the space cloud formed by the constellation cloud chair. When he stepped out of the space, he left a warning that made Lei Hejuan's face even gloomier. 3 days later, the 1st Elder will bring Miss Yunxiang to Mount Shuangniu, not only to check the Chamber of Commerce's business in Mount Shuangniu, but also to visit Prince Consort. At that time, I will tell the 1st Elder what happened today in full detail. I hope you can take care of yourself, 6th Elder. Looking at Shun Jinwen, who stepped out of the constellation space, Lei Hejuan's eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. Yu Haoran reached out to wipe the remaining trace of blood at the corner of his mouth and licked his lips. Looking at the third tribulation quasi-martial venerable whose aura had returned to normal, he roared excitedly. Your strength is passable. Let's see if you can withstand my second move of the staff technique. Seeing that Yu Haoran's aura was rising rapidly and that he was planning to continue using the staff technique, the third tribulation quasi-martial venerable could not help but frown. Then, he turned his head to look at the first tribulation quasi-martial venerable whose aura had dropped to the first tribulation quasi-martial venerable level. In the end, he sighed softly and walked toward the cloud chair that represented the star-sun-horse constellation. Coward of the Gu Yang clan, you can attack whenever you want and leave whenever you want. How can there be such a good thing in this world? Seeing that the third tribulation quasi-martial venerable was planning to return to the cloud chair, Yu Haoran suppressed his impulse to soar into the sky and mocked him with a cold smile. If you want to leave safely, you have to ask the purple staff in my hand if it agrees. Boy, you better watch your mouth. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Yu Haoran's mocking made the third tribulation quasi-martial venerable's face darken instantly. His eyes were filled with anger as he threatened. TSK. Yu Haoran snorted disdainfully and continued to mock him. Old bastard, when you sneak attacked me just now, did you show mercy? Boy, since you know that I am from the Guliang clan, you should know how powerful the Guliang clan is. Under such circumstances, you still dare to humiliate me like this. Do you want to be enemies with the Guliang clan? Or perhaps the Emperor Qin Kingdom wants to declare war with the Guliang clan. Coward and old bastard. Yu Haoran mocked him mercilessly. At the same time, a strong murderous intent rose from the third tribulation quasi-martial venerable. At the same time, two first tribulation quasi-martial venerables appeared beside him. The ninth grade martial sage, who had been severely injured and had barely recovered with the help of elixirs, directly appeared in front of the cloud chair that represented the willow-soiled deer constellation and pointed his sword at Qin Lingfei. Dragons have reverse scales, and those who touch them will die. At the same time, Yu Haoran also had forbidden areas that he could not touch. Qin Lingfei was one of his forbidden areas. No matter how sinister the Guliang clan was, no matter how many experts they sent to surround him, as long as he killed the enemy that provoked him, the anger in his heart would dissipate. However, when the ninth grade martial sage of the Guliang clan pointed his sword at Qin Lingfei, he really had a strong impulse to annihilate the Guliang clan. Under the strong impulse, he directly cut his finger and forced the blood out into the air. Then, he solemnly swore an oath. The Guliang clan is the family that inherited the bloodline of the Emperor Wu. There are many experts in the clan, and it is one of the top forces in the southern domain. The Guliang clan is as cowardly as a mouse. Facing the threat of the strange beasts in the Hengduan Mountains, they have hidden themselves from the world. The Guliang clan is arrogant and arrogant. They are tyrannical and bully the weak. Although I, Yu Haoran, do not have a high cultivation, I am willing to use my hot blood to get rid of a malignant tumor in the profound sky continent. Chapter 1107. In the black market auction hall, the top powers of the Guliang family, who had forced Yu Haoran to take a blood oath, took a few steps back. Yu Haoran, shut up immediately. Seeing that Yu Haoran was about to take a blood oath, the top powers of the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable immediately shouted at him. Yu Haoran chose to ignore the top powers of the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable and looked up into the sky. I, Yu Haoran, swear by the rules of the way of heaven. Damn it! Seeing that Yu Haoran ignored him and continued to swear by the rules of the way of heaven, the top powers of the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable cursed inwardly and immediately rushed forward, wanting to interrupt Yu Haoran's swearing. However, what made him extremely frightened was that an irresistible force of imprisonment prevented him from moving his body. He could only watch as Yu Haoran continued to swear. I, Yu Haoran, swear by the rules of the way of heaven that I am willing to slaughter the Guliang family alone within a month and return the fresh air of freedom to the southern region. If I, Howren, am afraid, my spiritual soul will be destroyed. If I, Howren, am afraid, my spiritual soul will be destroyed. If I, Howren, am afraid, my spiritual soul will be destroyed. If I, Howren, am late and break the contract, my spiritual soul will be destroyed. Aloud, as Howren swore by his own blood, and the voices in the black market auction hall rang out, a single eye slowly appeared in the sky above Twin Bull Mountain. The single eye was emotionless as it glanced indifferently at the 28 cloud chairs. All the cloud chairs that formed an independent space automatically dissipated, and the top powers sitting on the cloud chairs were all exposed to the crowd. Then, the single eye looked at the 4 top powers of the Guliang family who were floating in the air. Traces of life energy were extracted from the 4 experts of the Guliang family in Howren. Then, the eye shifted its gaze and looked directly at the Guliang clan that was tens of thousands of kilometers away. Then, tens of thousands of life auras belonging to the Guliang clan's direct descendants and collateral family members were extracted by the eye formed by the heavenly Tao. In the end, the several tens of thousands of clansmen from the Guliang clan merged with Howren's life aura, forming a blood oath. However, it was different from the blood oath that was formed when they encircled and annihilated the Hungduan mountain range quasi-venerable realm beasts. That time, under the proclamation of the heavenly Tao, every corner of the Tianxian land could hear the content of the blood oath. This time, the blood oath was only witnessed by the people present at the black market auction. Rumor has it that Howren is either the reincarnation of an immortal god or the illegitimate child of the heavenly Tao. Just as the blood oath was formed and the eye formed by the heavenly Tao gradually faded away, a middle-aged expert from the Golden Dog constellation, representing Lu Jin, said to the junior beside him with a solemn expression, "Now it seems that the rumor is not groundless. Howren is indeed protected by the heavenly Tao. Fifth uncle, he only used his own blood as an opportunity to trigger the completion of the blood oath formed by the heavenly Tao. How could Howren be protected by the heavenly Tao?" A young man in his 20s retorted with a face full of dissatisfaction. "Yuze, the blood oath formed by the heavenly Tao just now was not an ordinary blood oath, but a blood oath of fate." The middle-aged expert, who was called Fifth Uncle, did not feel any dissatisfaction because of his junior's rebuttal and explained in detail. The so-called blood oath of fate refers to the gathering of a person's fate as a wager. If Howren loses in the end, not only will his divine soul be destroyed, but the fate gathered in his body will also be divided up by the Guliang family. If Howren wins in the end, not only will the entire Guliang family be destroyed, but the fate gathered by tens of thousands of family members will all gather in his body. After explaining to this point, the middle-aged expert who was called Fifth Uncle turned to look at his junior and asked, "Yuze, do you know what it means to gather a huge amount of fate from a family with the bloodline of Emperor Wu?" The young man who was called Yuze shook his head, indicating that he did not know. The fate of tens of thousands of family members of the Guliang family is enough to increase Howren's chances of breaking through to the martial honorable realm by 30%. The middle-aged expert who was called Fifth Uncle said, word by word. When a middle-aged expert who was called Fifth Uncle was teaching his junior, he did not deliberately lower his voice. This caused everyone in the black market auction to hear him clearly. Although the benefits brought about by the blood oath of providence shocked everyone present, what really made them gasp was the 30% chance of helping them break through to the martial venerable realm. After all, Howren had the potential to be a top genius, and he had the ability to refine the supreme Huazuan pill. If combined with the 30% chance of breaking through, then the door to the martial honorable realm was completely open to Howren. At the same time, some of the strong experts who were strong and murderous had an idea in their hearts. It was an idea that was directly asked by Yuze. "Fifth Uncle, if I choose a small family now and use the same method as swear, can I also obtain the fate of this family?" Yuze asked excitedly. Hearing his junior's excited suggestion and seeing the greed in the eyes of some of the people present, the middle-aged expert, who was called Fifth Uncle, could not help but snort coldly. His face was full of mockery. If you dare to do so, not only will you not be able to obtain the fate of the family that was massacred, but because of too much killing, you will trigger a backlash from your inner demon, and your soul will be destroyed in the end. Fifth Uncle, why can you Howard do it? Yu asked unhappily. Sigh, seeing that his junior was unconvinced, or perhaps because he did not believe his reminder, the middle-aged expert, who was called Fifth Uncle, could not help but sigh. He regretted that he had said too much and told his junior the secret of the blood oath of fate. Yu, this is why I said that Yu Haoran is protected by the rules of heaven, because only he can form the blood oath of fate, and only he can enjoy the benefits of the blood oath of fate. However, in the face of the elder's reminder, the young man who was called Yu obviously did not believe it. He lowered his head, and a cold light flashed in his eyes from time to time. Yu Haoran, I will kill you now and then divide the huge fate of the entire Hengduan mountain range. Yu Haoran had used his own blood as a guide and the lives of tens of thousands of the Gu Liang family's people as the foundation to form the blood oath of fate. This caused the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable from the Gu Liang family to grit his teeth and growl in a low voice. Ling Fei, sit obediently on the cloud chair. Ignoring the threat of the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable, Yu Haoran first turned his head and ordered Qin Ling Fei, who wanted to rush to his side and fight with him. At the same time, his consciousness warned his second avatar in the sea of consciousness. Chapter 1108. In the black market auction hall. Brother, you don't worry. The second clone nodded and gestured to him. I have already set up a formation that can instantly extract the Soul Stone soul power. It will allow you to perform the law martial technique 4 times in a row. After dispersing the ancestral sorcerer's body and putting away the purple rod, Yu Haoran raised his head coldly. He looked at the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable who was charging at him and quickly raised his arm. Life and death. As he shouted in a low voice, a special energy caused the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable's face to change. Then, he immediately activated the lower-grade Sage Realm defensive artifact in his body and quickly set up a dual defense of soul power and origin power in front of him with his palms. Unfortunately, the law martial technique formed by the law of life and death could not only transcend time and space, but also ignore any kind of defense. In the end, the law of life and death's power directly penetrated the origin power defense, the soul power defense, and the Sage Realm artifact's defense, and shot into the third tribulation quasi-martial honorable's body, allowing him to enjoy the wonderful process of life and death. Life and death. With the support of the second clone soul power, Yu Haoran then performed the law martial technique of life and death. The target of his attack was the peak first tribulation quasi-martial honorable. Life and death. Yu Haoran only paused for a second. With the help of the formation that instantly extracted the soul power from the soul stone, Yu Haoran used the law martial technique for the 3rd time. His target was the last quasi-martial venerable. As for the peak 9th grade martial saint who had not fully recovered from his injuries, he could easily kill him with his sword technique or the ancestral sorcerer's body. The shot brought about by the law martial technique of life and death caused all the experts on the cloud chairs to suddenly stand up and the experts on the red sandalwood chairs to retreat to the corner of the courtyard. Everyone's faces were filled with fear as they looked at the 3 quasi-martial honorables who were going through life and death, death and life, and finally death. This is a nomological martial skill formed by the laws of life and death. The middle-aged powerhouse who had just made the blood oath exclaimed in a trembling voice. As for the youth named Yu standing behind him, there was a deep fear in his eyes, as well as a trace of unconvinced resentment. As for Lei He-jun, who was standing in front of the cloud chair that represented Gold Bull, his entire body trembled. His face was pale as he fell onto the cloud chair. His mouth even muttered to himself, "How did I provoke such a monster? How did I provoke?" With the help of the formation that his second clone had set up to instantly extract the soul power of soul stones, Howren used the 30% of his soul power that he had barely recovered to activate the ancestral shaman's body before executing the basic staff arts of crushing Mount Tai, directly killing the peak 9th grade martial saint expert who was in a daze and did not know how to dodge or resist at all. After that, he flashed and appeared beside Qin Lingfei. After instructing Qin Lingfei to collect the storage rings of the experts of the Guliang family, he immediately sat cross-legged on the cloud chair and began to fully recover the soul power that he had consumed. "Howren, I will return to the palace now and earnestly ask Father to lend you the Emperor's sword to help you." Seeing Howren slowly opening his eyes, Qin Lingfei said anxiously as she handed over the 4 storage rings that she had collected to him. Directly reaching out to grab Qin Lingfei's arm, Howren shook his head and refused. "Lingfei, a mere Guliang family is not worth using the Emperor's sword. Howren, the Guliang family is one of the only 2 top forces in the southern region that can threaten our great Emperor Qin's kingdom. Father had sent people to investigate the Guliang family situation." Seeing that Howren was not only unwilling to lend the Emperor's sword, but also looked down on the Guliang family, Qin Lingfei, who was burning with anxiety, hurriedly used her divine sense to remind him. After nearly 20 years of collecting information, the number of martial saints and quasi-martial saints in the Guliang family has exceeded 200. Moreover, in the forbidden area of the Guliang family, there are 2 peerless experts that are far stronger than the quasi-martial saints. Only 2 peerless experts of the martial saint realm. After hearing Qin Lingfei reveal the true foundation of the Guliang family, Howren secretly sighed in relief. Because in his guess, with the Guliang family's inherited bloodline of the Emperor Wu and their personality of cherishing life, there should be at least 3 peerless experts of the martial saint realm. Now it seemed that he had overestimated the cowardly Guliang family. Patting Qin Lingfei's jade-like hand, Howren smiled and shook his head, his attitude resolute as he refused. "Lingfei, there's no need. In fact, the reason why he had used his blood as a guide and made a blood oath with the Heavenly Ways rules was because he was a little impulsive. However, he had truly made this decision after careful consideration. Firstly, from a sneak attack of the Guliang family's 3rd tribulation quasi-martial saints, he was afraid that he had already been listed as one of the key targets of the Guliang family that must be eliminated. As the saying goes, one is not afraid of thieves stealing, but one is afraid of thieves remembering. How could there be a reason to guard against thieves all day long? Moreover, with the Guliang family's way of doing things in the future, regardless of whether he went out to train or cultivate it in seclusion, he would have to guard against the sneak attack of the Guliang family's experts. It could even be a sneak attack by a peerless expert of the martial saint realm. If he was not careful, he would be in fatal danger. Since that was the case, it would be better to eliminate the Guliang family in advance and nip the problem in the bud. Secondly, after comprehending the life and death dual laws during this period of time, he had discovered a very serious matter. That was, without experiencing the trials of life and death, it would be very difficult to quickly improve the comprehension of the life and death dual laws. As the life and death dual laws that he mainly cultivated, it would also affect his cultivation progress. If he continued to cultivate steadily like this, he did not know when he would be able to reach the perfect realm of the laws. Only then would he be able to attempt to break through and become a peerless expert of the martial saint realm. Thirdly, when he obtained the last medicinal ingredient that could assist in refining pills and awaken the sleeping Thaling, with the Thaling's means, he would definitely have a way to eliminate the Guliang family. It was also because of the above 3 considerations that Howren finally chose to make a blood oath with the Heavenly Ways rules. As for the blood oath formed by the Heavenly Ways rules, although he was slightly surprised, he could understand the Heavenly Ways rules after giving it some thought. "Howren, It's fine if you don't borrow Father's Emperor's sword, but when you encircle and annihilate the Guliang family, I must accompany you." Seeing Yu Haoran's resolute opposition, Qin Lingfei knew that there would be no result even if she continued to persuade him. However, when she thought of how Yu Haoran had faced the 11 quasi-martial Saint Realm strange beasts alone in the Hunwan Mountains, and how she could only be a bystander in fear, the thought of sharing life and death with him suddenly emerged in her heart. "Ling Fei, do you think I will agree?" Yu Haoran instantly withdrew the smile on his face and asked seriously. Chapter 1109. In the Black Market Auction Hall. After Divine Thoughts directly activated the cloud and mist of the cloud chair to form an independent space, Yu Haoran pulled Qin Lingfei onto the cloud chair and threatened with a sneer. "Ling Fei, you know the means of Yu Haoran. If I don't want you to accompany me, even if your attitude is 100 times more resolute, I have 1,000 ways to make you unable to go. So, you'd better not make me angry, otherwise, I will send you back to the palace now." After hearing Yu Haoran's unquestionable decision with a sneer, Qin Lingfei could only shake her head and sigh. Then, she looked up at Yu Haoran's eyes and said emotionally, "Haoran, if you have an accident, I will go with you immediately." Ling Fei. Looking at Qin Lingfei's hot lips, Yu Haoran, who was deeply moved, slowly lowered his head. After Yu Haoran activated the cloud chair to form an independent space, the people on the scene gradually woke up from the shock. The experts in the air sat back on the cloud chair, and the experts who retreated to the corner of the courtyard returned to the red sandalwood chair. However, no one on the scene took the initiative to take out the treasures for auction. Shun Jinwen, who was familiar with and understood Yu Haoran's strength, was the first to wake up from the shock. Seeing Lei Hajuan sitting on the cloud chair representing the Golden Bull Star, he did not intend to announce the official start of the auction. As the person in charge of the Heavenly Earth branch of the Twin Bulls Mountain, Shun Jinwen took the initiative to stand up and took out the 3 drops of geocentric spiritual milk prepared in advance and shouted, 3 drops of 500-year-old geocentric spiritual milk in exchange for a low-grade Sage Realm defensive magic weapon." The black market auction of the Twin Bulls Mountain was different from ordinary auctions. The black market auction had neither fixed auction items nor a dedicated auctioneer. Every warrior present took out the precious auction items that they did not need. After showing them to the people on the scene, they directly said the price they wanted to auction or the treasures they needed. If someone was willing to exchange, it meant that the auction was successful. If no one was willing to make an exchange, it would mean that the auction had failed and the auction would start anew. The market price of a 500-year-old geocentric spiritual milk was about 30 pieces of 4th grade, 1st grade spirit stones, which was enough to exchange for a low-grade Saint Stage defensive magic tool. Therefore, as soon as Shun Jinwen's voice fell, a gray-robed old man who had returned to the auction immediately took out a silver-white defensive armor and completed the first item of the black market auction with him. After exchanging for 3 drops of 500-year-old geocentric spiritual milk, the gray-robed old man didn't leave the high platform. Instead, he took out a fist-sized, pitch-black refining material from his storage magic tool and shouted in a loud voice, "Black gold that can be used to refine low-grade Exalted Realm artifacts weighs 70 kilograms. It needs to be exchanged for a 4th-tier medicinal pill that can eliminate inner demons." Then, the gray-robed elder looked directly at Yu Haoran's cloud chair. When Shun Jinwen took the initiative to exchange for the geocentric spiritual milk, he interrupted the passionate kiss between Yu Haoran and Qin Lingfei. Yu Haoran reluctantly raised his head to leave the burning lips that made his heart flutter. Through the clouds, he looked at the gray-robed elder on the high platform. Looking at the black gold in the gray-robed elder's hand, a hint of desire appeared in his eyes. Although he wasn't proficient in refining weapons, Thaling, who was about to wake up, was an expert in refining weapons. The black gold that could be used to refine low-grade Exalted Realm artifacts would definitely play an important role in his hands. "Haoran, There are several pieces of black gold that weigh more than 50 kilograms in the palace's treasury. Seeing that Yu Haoran was interested in the black gold in the gray-robed elder's hand, Qin Lingfei, who had forced herself to calm down, quickly reminded him, "If you want it, I'll ask someone to send it to you immediately." After hearing Qin Lingfei's reminder, Yu Haoran immediately extinguished the idea of exchanging for the black gold. He then said to her, "I'll go back to the palace after some time. You can give me the black gold then." Okay. Considering that Yu Haoran would accompany her to participate in the training in the secret realm, Qin Lingfei nodded without any objections. "I have a 4th-rank, first-grade spirit consolidating pill here. I wonder if I can exchange it for the black gold in your hand." Just when Yu Haoran gave up on exchanging for the black gold, the sound of an exchange came from the space of the cloud chair that represented the Xiexing constellation. Sure. Without any hesitation, the gray-robed elder wrapped the black gold in his hand with Yuanli and sent it into the space of the cloud chair. Then, a pill bottle flew from the space of the cloud chair into the gray-robed elder's hand. After opening the pill bottle and taking a closer look, the gray-robed elder confirmed that the pill in the bottle was indeed a 4th-rank, first-grade spirit consolidating pill. He then jumped off the high platform and returned to his own red sandalwood chair. After the gray-robed elder left, the experts in the space of the cloud chair that represented the Xiexing constellation didn't want to immediately take out their items for exchanging for the time being. Therefore, there was no one on the high platform for the time being. However, in less than 3 seconds, a peak 9th-rank martial saint expert jumped onto the high platform and took out a jade slip and introduced it to everyone present. An unknown inheritance jade slip. You need to exchange it for a 4th-rank, first-grade Dao comprehension pill, or a Dao comprehension stone that can increase your comprehension of a loss. The unknown represented uncertainty. In other words, no one knew whether the jade slip contained a cultivation method and martial skill, or secret technique and comprehension. It could also be an experience record that didn't have much use. Therefore, in the face of the peak 9th-rank martial saint expert's request, the scene was silent for more than 30 seconds. Sigh. Seeing that no one was willing to exchange with him, the peak 9th-rank martial saint expert sighed in disappointment. When he was about to jump off the high platform, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. A 4th-rank first-grade Dao comprehension pill. Looking up at the cloud chair that represented the Xiexing constellation, the peak 9th-rank martial saint expert immediately nodded excitedly. Then he used his spirit energy to send the jade slip in his hand into the space of clouds. Immediately after, a sparkling and translucent pill flew from the clouds into the other party's hand. "Thank you, Yu Zongshi." Looking at the Dao comprehension pill that Yu Haoran gave him, although it was only a 4th-rank first-grade pill, its true effect was not inferior to a 4th-rank third-grade pill. The peak 9th-rank martial saint expert cupped his fists and thanked him excitedly. "You're welcome." After replying calmly, Yu Haoran didn't directly look at the records in the jade slip. Seeing Yu Haoran directly put away the jade slip, Qin Lingfei asked in confusion, "Haoran, aren't you going to immediately look at the contents of the jade slip?" Chapter 11:10. Inside the black market auction venue. Ever since the encounter with the Heaven Punisher Demon Venerable's divine sense jade slip in the Four Symbols Sex Treasury, Yu Haoran had always been very wary of jade slips with unknown inheritances. As such, he needed to wait until the Thaling had truly awakened and gone through his inspection before using his divine sense to check the contents of the unknown inheritance jade slip. Qin Lingfei pointed at the empty stage and asked as she nodded to indicate that she understood. "Haoran, don't you have any treasures that you want to auction?" "Yes, but there's no rush." Nodding, Yu Haoran smiled and indicated to Qin Lingfei that there was no rush for now. Whether it was a formal auction or a black market auction, the real highlight was usually at the end. With his current status and identity, if he took out his auction item too early, not only would it disrupt the normal progress of the auction, it would also damage the reputation that he had painstakingly built up. Moreover, According to the rules of the black market auction, although everyone could exchange for items that they liked, they only had one chance to auction their item. As such, he needed to wait for the right time to take out treasures that were enough to tempt that spiritual medicine. Seeing that Yuhaoran did not appear on the stage, an old man in a dark blue robe appeared from the crowd of people sitting on the red sandalwood chairs. Afterwards, the blue-robed old man took out an azure pearl and shouted loudly. The water avoidance pearl can allow a person to live in water like a water-type exotic beast. Exchange for an earth elemental pearl of the same attribute. Whether it was the water avoidance pearl or the earth elemental pearl, they were all top-tier exotic treasures nurtured by top-tier exotic beasts. Not only were they extremely rare, but they were also extremely difficult to obtain. As such, the blue-robed old man did not get the earth elemental pearl that he was looking forward to. He could only jump off the stage with a face full of disappointment. After the blue-robed old man jumped off the stage, a woman with an extremely enchanting figure wearing a black corset dress and a black cloak jumped onto the stage. Then, the black-clothed woman took out 6 jade boxes from her storage Dharma artifact and placed them on the high platform. After opening them, a rich aroma of spirit fruits began to spread in all directions. 1000-year vermilion fruit, 4th grade frost origin fruit, 4th grade purple star barrier breaking fruit, 4th grade astral yang fruit, 4th grade fiery phoenix fruit, 4th grade bone spirit fruit. Looking at the 6 jade boxes that the black-clothed woman opened and the 6 spirit fruits placed in them, a middle-aged man in the alchemy grandmaster realm among the crowd on the red sandalwood chairs loudly introduced the origin and grade of each spirit fruit. 6 top-notch spirit fruits in exchange for a 1st grade 4th step samsara pill. After nodding and thanking the alchemist who took the initiative to introduce the origin of the 6 spirit fruits, the black-clothed woman raised her head and looked at the constellation cloud chair where Yuhaoran was sitting. She made her request. Frowning slightly, Yuhaoran stared at the cloak that the black-clothed woman used to cover her face. He pondered the reason why she wanted to exchange for the samsara pill and her background. Ahem. Seeing Yuhaoran stare at the black-clothed woman with an abnormally hot body that exuded endless temptation, Qin Lingfei, who felt that her body was inferior to the other parties, couldn't help but cough lightly with some jealousy. Yuhaoran, who had been awakened by the cough, glared at Qin Lingfei with dissatisfaction before continuing to look at the black-clothed woman. The samsara pill is also known as the soul-drawing pill. It is one of the few top-notch pills that can repair the sea of knowledge and heal the soul. Although the samsara pill you want to exchange for is only a 1st grade 4th step samsara pill, the difficulty of refining it is no less than a 3rd grade 9th step rising dragon pill. So, miss, these 6 1st grade 4th step spirit fruits are not enough to exchange for a 1st grade 4th step samsara pill. You Zhongsure, then what kind of treasure do you need to help me refine a samsara pill? Although 6 spirit fruits were not enough to exchange for a samsara pill, Yuhaoran's explanation just now showed that not only could he refine the samsara pill, but he was also willing to help her refine it, so the black-clothed woman immediately asked excitedly. A 1st grade, 4th step spirit illuminating fruit. Looking at the black-clothed woman's excited expression, the corners of Yuhaoran's mouth curled up slightly, and then he used his divine sense to speak. After hearing the type of spirit fruit Yuhaoran wanted, the black-clothed woman couldn't help but take a few steps back in panic, almost falling off the high platform. Immediately after, a strong murderous aura quickly rose from her body. Her eyes, which were covered by the black cloak, emitted a chill that could be felt by everyone present. Haoran, you didn't make any outrageous request just now, did you? The black-clothed woman's overly intense reaction, coupled with Yuhaoran's unwavering gaze and the slightly curled corners of his mouth, made Qin Lingfei immediately think of that outrageous request. This made her feel a little heartache, and she asked with some dissatisfaction, "What outrageous request?" Her heartache and dissatisfaction made Yuhaoran frown and ask, "Serve me in bed." Qin Lingfei gritted her teeth and said, "Aya." Faced with Yu Haoran suddenly reaching out to flick her forehead, Qin Lingfei immediately asked with dissatisfaction while feeling the pain. Haoran, what are you doing? Lingfei, what are you thinking in that little head of yours? What kind of person am I, Yu Haoran? Yu Haoran also questioned with dissatisfaction. In response, Qin Lingfei only rubbed her aching forehead and looked at him with eyes full of submission. AI. After a light sigh, Yu Haoran pointed at the black-clothed woman and said, Lingfei, a rank 4 first-rank samsara pill, apart from being able to repair the sea of knowledge and heal the soul, has a very special effect. That is, when taken together with the spirit illuminating fruit, it can unlock a special cold in constitution. As a unique spirit illuminating fruit, it can only be found in the Death Swamp, one of the 10 great forbidden areas. Therefore, I suspect that this black-clothed woman, who doesn't dare to show her true face, is very likely a native of the Death Swamp. Moreover, the request I made just now was for a rank 4 first-rank spirit illuminating fruit. It's not the kind of request you think it is. Haoran, I'm sorry. After hearing Yu Haoran's slightly angry explanation, Qin Lingfei quickly held his hands and looked at him with an apologetic face. Yu Haoran said with a rather helpless tone as he reached out and rubbed her forehead that had just been flicked. Lingfei, based on the alchemy ability I just displayed, if I were a person who lusted after beauty, how could I only have you by my side? And how could I still maintain the Longyang constitution? Chapter 11:11. In the black market auction hall. Even though I really want it, I can't have it now. Yu Haoran explained gently as he gestured for Qin Lingfei to lie on his lap. Lingfei, even though your cultivation has broken through to the martial saint realm, the mysterious yin qi in your body has yet to completely dissipate. If I were to take you now, it would destroy the solid foundation that the mysterious yin soul fire had laid for you. It would also affect your breakthrough to the martial honor realm in the future. Don't you feel terrible? Qin Lingfei asked, her heart aching. I can take it, Yu Haoran said through gritted teeth as he took a deep breath. Who are you? The black-robed woman asked coldly as she tried to suppress the murderous aura that had just emerged from her heart. I am someone who can help you refine the first-grade 4th-level samsara pill, Yu Haoran replied calmly as he stroked Qin Lingfei's hair. How did you know that I have that kind of spiritual fruit? The black-robed woman continued to ask. The black-robed woman's cold question confirmed Yu Haoran's explanation. Qin Lingfei, who was filled with guilt, wrapped her arms around his waist and buried her head deep into his abdomen. However, Qin Lingfei did not know that her actions had made Yu Haoran even more uncomfortable. Fortunately, the black-robed woman continued to ask and diverted his attention. I'm a pill refiner with decent talent and ability. It is normal for me to know about the existence of that kind of spiritual fruit through the samsara pill, Yu Haoran replied calmly. He then gave the black-robed woman 2 choices. Miss, between you and me, we are only talking about a deal, nothing else. If you agree to my request, after the auction ends, you will provide me with the 8 herbs needed to refine the samsara pill, and I will help you refine the pill. If you don't agree, we will pretend that nothing happened and we will still be strangers. Faced with Yu Haoran's choice, the black-clothed woman closed her eyes and carefully considered it for a while. When she opened her eyes again, she suddenly put away the 6 spirit fruits on the stage. Then, she directly soared into the sky and left the auction house, quickly flying away from Twin Oxen Mountain. Yu Haoran's face instantly darkened when he saw the black-clothed woman refuse to accept the deal and leave Twin Oxen Mountain. His gloomy expression was not because he was determined to obtain the turbid spirit fruit, but because the black-clothed woman's overly vigilant behavior proved that she was a native of the Forbidden Land. Thinking of the hatred the natives of the Forbidden Zone had for the human martial artists of the outside world, as well as their cautious actions, it was likely that they wouldn't let him off so easily since he was familiar with and understood the uses of the spirit illuminating fruit. After the black-clothed woman left the auction house, a First Tribulation quasi-martial saint with white hair jumped onto the stage. He took out a rank 4 third-rank spiritual medicine and wanted to exchange it for a pill that could increase his cultivation. In the following period of time, Yu Haoran told Qin Lingfei about some unknown secrets of the Tianxian continent while observing the items that every martial artist who climbed onto the stage wanted to exchange. However, after more than 40 martial artists took out their items in succession, there was no treasure that he wanted to exchange, until a little old man who was about 60 years old and less than 2 meters tall jumped onto the stage and took out a beast egg that exuded exuberant vitality. Yu Haoran signaled Qin Lingfei to get up. Then, he used his divine sense to carefully examine the beast egg's quality and origin. In fact, the moment the little old man took out the beast egg, not only did Yu Haoran use his divine sense to examine it, the other 27 martial artists on the Constellation Cloud chairs and the hundreds of martial artists on the Red Sandalwood chairs also used their divine sense to examine the beast egg. Regarding this, the little old man who held the beast egg in his hand not only did not care, but also gave everyone present nearly a minute to examine the beast egg. The beast egg of an iron-winged eagle that contains the bloodline of an ancient divine beast, the golden-winged rock, in exchange for a rank 4, rank 7 life essence pill that can extend one's lifespan by 1,000 years. After hearing the little old man's trade request, a total of 5 Constellation Cloud chairs called out their desire to exchange for the beast egg. Only Yu Haoran couldn't help but frown. Firstly, he didn't have a rank 4, rank 7 life essence pill in his possession. Moreover, he also lacked the main ingredient needed to refine the life essence pill, eldergrass. Secondly, when he was examining the beast egg just now, he discovered that although the beast egg in the little old man's hand was an iron-winged eagle that contained the bloodline of an ancient golden-winged rock, the beast egg contained a trace of an indescribable aura. Thirdly, although the little old man who auctioned the beast egg had a head full of silver hair and seemed to be quite old and needed a life essence pill to extend his lifespan, his arcane master's instinct told him that the little old man's vitality was abnormally exuberant and that he didn't need a life essence pill to extend his lifespan. It was precisely because he had an inappropriate guess in his heart that Yu Haoran didn't participate in the auction of the iron-winged eagle's egg in the face of the little old man's trade request. Yu Zongshi, could it be that this iron-winged eagle's egg isn't to your discerning eyes? Ignoring the other 5 Constellation Cloud chairs experts who wanted to exchange for the beast egg, the little old man raised his head and looked at the Willow Earth Deer Constellation's cloud chair and asked with a frown, "Senior, please don't joke around." Originally, he had some doubts about the other party's motives. Now, the little old man's action of wanting to exchange the beast egg with him further strengthened his suspicions. But in a situation where they didn't know each other, why would the other party deliberately target him? Yu Haoran could only guess the other party's true intentions through further communication. As an iron-winged eagle that contains the bloodline of an ancient peak divine beast, the golden-winged rock, even a peerless martial exalt would be moved. How could this junior not be moved? It's a pity that this junior doesn't have a life essence pill that can extend one's lifespan, nor do I have the medicinal ingredients needed to refine a life essence pill. Yu Zongshi, this old man has enough medicinal ingredients to refine a life essence pill. As long as you agree to refine it, this iron-winged eagle's egg is yours. After hearing the reason why Yu Haoran had given up on the auction, the little old man immediately suggested enthusiastically, "Thank you, Senior, for your great kindness." The more enthusiastic the little old man was, the higher the vigilance in Yu Haoran's heart. The more he couldn't agree to the exchange of the beast egg so easily. This was because he couldn't describe the aura in the beast egg. Whether or not it was life-threatening, he couldn't be 100% sure. Furthermore, Qin Lingfei was by his side. He definitely couldn't let his beloved woman be in danger. Therefore, in the face of the other party's suggestion, he first thanked him, then pretended to speak in a helpless tone. "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.